Welcome to another episode of the Dear Souls podcast, where we dive deep into the journeys of individuals who have transformed their lives and are now inspiring others to do the same. Today we are joined by Alexandra Dotcheva. I am thrilled to introduce a truly remarkable guest. Alexandra is not only a doctor of nursing practice, but also an accomplished violinist and martial artist, embodying the perfect harmony between health, discipline, and art. With her rich background in healthcare, Alexandra has dedicated herself to empowering others to take control of their health through holistic and practical approaches. Her book, It is Simple, a holistic practice, practical approach to self-confidence, is a practical guide, has touched the lives of many, offering readers actionable insights into building self-confidence and achieving personal freedom. In today's episode, we'll explore her journey, the principles she lives by, and how she continues to inspire others on their path. Welcome to the show, Alexandra.
Thank you for having me, Jackie. So nice to be here. I'll just make a quick, that wonderful presentation, but actually I'm a doctor of musical arts and I'm a registered nurse, but I'm not a doctor in nursing. Okay.
Okay, no worries. So I wanted to say thank you for sending me your book. It's such an extraordinary book,
Welcome.
very informative, very detailed, step-by-step guides. You even have, where you can do, go get your groceries. You have like little different organic stuff in here that, you could help people with, just showing them how to cook healthier, the different recipes. You talk about all kinds of different approaches in this book. I mean, you get into real detail, even explaining how your lungs function and the different things to detox or just all kinds of stuff. You even go into finances, spirituality. I mean, there's such a combination of everything in here, and it all intertwines so beautifully. And I want to say thank you for sending me the book and also for writing a little note in here. It is so nice of
You're
you.
most welcome,
And
of course.
I'm so honored. Yeah, I'm so honored to have you here. So let's get started. I wanted to ask you, what inspired you to pursue a career in nursing, and how did your journey lead to the holistic health practices?
Thank you. Well, the career in nursing, that's a little has a background because I was a musician for 26 years before I made the decision to go into nursing. I was not a competitive enough musician, unfortunately, and when the financial crisis developed between 2006 and 2008, I had to face the fact that I was not going to progress as a musician. And the other problem was that I truly didn't feel useful enough to others, to society, that I wasn't contributing enough to their well-being in ways that I could have done better. Um, and I'm not saying that musicians are not vitally important to the well-being of humanity, but you have to be really good and truly stand out and be able to concertize in many places, in good places, so more people can see you. And I did have jobs and everything, but it wasn't nearly the way I wanted it, considering the amount of time I spent practicing for all these years, between 7 and 9 hours a day, since very early childhood. And so then the financial crisis hit, and I had been in college 11 years. Until that time,
Oh, wow.
Jackie, bachelor's, master's, doctoral degree in nursing, and before that, 12 years of specialized nursing school. So add the 12 years plus the 11 years of college, you can see that's
Wow.
an entire life, basically, when most people start thinking about retiring when they've been in a career for so long. But in my case, I had to start a new beginning at 32, and I put myself to nursing school because I realized it was highly demanded profession, very restricted ethical practice when you do it right, and you can help tremendously many people. And also, it didn't require another 11 years of college. So that was how I transitioned to nursing. Later on, the holistic practice, well, that came a little later once I saw how the healthcare system was using patients as assets, as financial assets, keeping them permanently sick for decades, until they basically died, but keeps you barely functional, sustaining your chronic diseases on medications, and call it symptom maintenance. Later, like with the financial asset management, when they want to manage your money, if you have more money, that same financial system and the healthcare system, they were very similar. They're like sisters
Oh, yeah.
in evil practice. But that's where the holistic approach came. 2-3 years later on, I started thinking about it much more thoroughly. That's about how long it takes as a healthcare professional to see what's happening, unless you're blind, deaf, or both,
Yeah.
purposely or unintentionally.
Yeah, thank you for that information. And I see that a lot because I have, my mom's in the nursing industry. My sister, she's also in the nursing industry. And my mother-in-law, she was also a nurse for years and years. And, you know, they're not 100% taught, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when you're going through nursing school or you're not taught to really take care of your patients and help them heal, they want you to maintain them. They just want you to kind of be there to be able to bring in these medications or just kind of keep them as comfortable as you can. But they don't really talk to you about what the medications can really do to someone if they are not as healthy as it can be. These medications can actually make things even worse at times. You know what I mean? It could even cost somebody their death. So the holistic approach to me, now that I'm understanding that the doctors, nurses, you guys do the best you can with what you have, but then it's up to you to go into that other route, which is the holistic approach. Correct?
So it's a little bit more complex than that. For
Okay.
one thing, there are many medicinal plants that the doctors cannot legally recommend to the patients as healing products because they can lose their licenses. Okay.
Really?
But the other thing is that you can always read the side effects of the medications and make choices not to take them or to take them. I mean, I don't take any pharmaceuticals. I'm 48 years old. Okay. But
Yeah.
the bigger problem for me, you've made an excellent point about the patients being only given pharmaceutical drugs and not educated otherwise on holistic practices. But the bigger problem is that the actual healthcare professionals are not expected, required, educated to take excellent care for their own health and be in complete control over their own health, meaning not walking around morbidly obese or overweight by 20, 30
Yeah.
pounds, smoking, eating fast food from the cafeterias of the very hospitals where they work at, and
Yeah.
then teach patients how to live healthy, right? While they themselves are not 100% example of perfect health and discipline and integrity in the healthcare system. So seeing healthcare professionals being profoundly unhealthy. I mean, I've seen nurses carrying every disease known to man, and that was the
Yeah.
biggest cultural shock when I started my clinicals because I knew the patients were going to be sick. I was expecting that, and that's why I was in the profession. But I was shocked by the amount of nurses and nursing educators, how unhealthy they were, and they didn't seem to be bothered about it at all. They just nonchalantly talked about it. So, oh yeah, I just love eating 3 ice creams a day. I love my pizza. I love my this. I love my that. And I could not
Yeah.
believe what I was seeing and hearing, and that I became disillusioned with the healthcare system very, very early in my
Yeah.
career. So I think this is the biggest problem because if you're a professional and you're not serving as an example every single day, hour, minutes, seconds to your
Yeah.
patients, you don't have credibility as a healthcare professional and they don't take you seriously. And then there is the other problem. Jack, I've seen lots of patients, and the first and worst patient I remember was my father, who would always use the absolute worst that he saw in his doctors to point as example of why he shouldn't stop smoking. He says, yeah, my
Right.
pulmonologist smokes. Why shouldn't I? Couldn't be that bad. And he had COPD, although it was undiagnosed, and I could hear his breathing. He had COPD. They thought him it was his heart. Yeah, it was also his heart, but it was also COPD because he couldn't breathe. And it's like, oh my God. So it starts with us,
Yeah.
healthcare
It does.
professionals, and
Yeah.
then we can expect the patients to hopefully want to change their lifestyles and understand the corruption in food system and industry that causes 95% of their chronic diseases. Highly profitable to the system.
Yeah, yeah, that is true. And ever since the pandemic, things have gotten even worse. And I've been doing a lot more research on like chemicals and stuff like that because I'm just like you. I don't like to take medications. I refuse them. I'm glad I have a nurse practitioner that she's all about holistic approaches and stuff like that. So she respects mine and my husband's approach to not taking any kind of medication. And she'll give me certain like little, ideas or stuff, of what I can, take. But to a point, like you said, they're not really allowed to kind of put you in that direction. But even like with my grandmother, she's already passed. It's been a little over 2 years now.
So
And I
sorry for all this.
remember, thank you. And I remember like every year we will bring her to, stay with us for a whole month in October. And she will come with a whole bag, like a huge bag full of medications, and I'm like, do you really need all this? And she's like, well, my doctor says yes. And I said, well, let's try something. What are the two main medications that you need to make sure that you're okay? And she'll be like, well, one for for me to be able to maybe breathe, and then one for the heart or something like that. And then I said, okay, let me grab those two and let me put the other ones away. And then I started juicing her vegetables, fruits. At that time, we were all 100% vegan, and she would complain. She's like, Cuban, you got to have the big plates of meat with rice and beans and all these things. And I said,
Most
yes, that's
cultures, yeah.
most culture. And I said, well, let's try something different. And she will always say to my husband, she's only giving me a little piece of lettuce and a little piece of tomato. It was her joke, because I was starving her supposedly. But by the time the end of the month will come, I could see her with so much energy. I mean, she's even walking up the hill and everything. And she has all this want to live and do things versus just sitting there and maybe reading a book or not really wanting to go out or do nothing. And I'm like, see, there's a difference. And I recorded some of that and I will show it to my mom, and I said, Mom, we really need to get her off these medications. And she's like, but, her doctor. And I said, doesn't matter, just because he has a doctor's degree or whatnot, and he's been her doctor for years. I mean, she even took care of his mother, for many, many years because we were all part of the family. I said, you know what? It's not right. She's not healthy. And I mean, I said aside with her when she was dying on her deathbed, and I could see her like not wanting to die, like she felt like she wanted to keep living, but it was already too late. It was so late because of all the medications, because of, her mental, because of everything. She just kind of like degraded completely, and that was so hard to see. And now I look at all the different things that I've done personally to heal myself because I went through a really bad health situation and I almost died not long ago. And I've been on this healing journey since last April. And I literally did everything natural. I changed my diet again. I used energy healing. I used light therapy. I used Reiki. I used so many holistic approaches that literally helped me get to where I'm at right now with my health. And I'm still not 100% where I wanted. But there are beautiful holistic things that you can do. Then you don't have to take
Absolutely.
those medications, right? Yeah. So can you share the story behind your book? It really is simple. What motivated you to write this book?
So the title is It Really Is Simple, A Holistic Approach to Self-Confidence, a Practical Guide. What motivated me was that I used to have no confidence for over 20 years. Most of it was self-inflicted. Typical story of somebody who is in the arts and, tries to
Yeah.
be different from everybody else. But then what happened was I changed the professions drastically, which I never believed was possible. And then besides the nursing and the holistic health and everything, I went also into real estate, and now I have 3 real estate businesses. So I became completely financially independent, which was also something
Beautiful.
that I never believed I was going to be able to do as a musician. And people started asking questions eventually, especially those who knew me said, what happened to you? You were never like this. You were between 4 walls. You never wanted to be bothered with anything. You were reluctant to learn new stuff, let alone apply anything
Right.
besides music to your life. So what happened to you? I said, well, first, you got to break poverty for one thing. And then I saw that you have to be 100% responsible for your health and finances and relationship choices to get to anywhere you want in life. And then asked myself the question, what would have been a book? So that was in 2020. Okay, that I started writing the book. 2020 had been 8 years. Let's see, 2008, 2020. Yeah, no, 2008. That's right. 8 years at the time where before I changed the mindset of the low self-confidence and changed my life completely. But I wanted to know what would have been a book that I could have read in 2008 to help me get to where I am today much faster than I did. And maybe not even much faster, but more confidently and more with better mindset preparation and less dread of the unknown and insecurity. Okay. And being less afraid of failure and taking responsibility for the failures of learning opportunities. So the structure of the book at that point, it just emerged in my mind over the 2 minutes pretty much it took. And I said, well, that's the book because I want to know about optimal health. I am whole food, organic, vegan, no compromises, no excuses, no exceptions. Okay. No restaurant food. The financial aspect, relationships, spirituality, and career, because lots of people confuse career with finances. They're not the same. It is very difficult to become independently wealthy on a job. You need to know how to invest your money in tangible cash flowing assets to become
Yeah.
wealthy, and then have the choice to work or not to work, or have your own business or not have your own business at your own discretion. Okay, that's freedom of choice for
Mm.
real, not just because you think you have the freedom of choice, but you actually have the financial backup to choose how you want your life to proceed. So the book is truly a holistic approach to self-confidence because, Jackie, when people hear holistic, they usually think about health, but it's really
Uh-huh.
health is just one out of 5 aspects, in my
Uh-huh.
opinion. And some people divide it in 3 aspects, 12 aspects, 10 aspects. I try to keep it really simple, just like the title of the book suggests. But I felt
Right.
that these 5 aspects, health, spirituality, career, finances, and relationships, were the essentials that everybody can elevate to the maximum and work on them every single day in order to become a holistically confident, self-reliant, resilient person. And that's truly how the book came into existence.
No, that's beautiful. And I know it took a lot of research. It took a lot of, commitment and hours and days. And how long did it take you to write the book?
Well, it's completely based on personal experience and a lot
Right.
of research. But I mean, I already had done what I wrote in the book, and I wanted to see other people, that somebody who thought never could do that, she could do it,
Right.
they can do it. But it took me 6 months to write it. Then
Oh,
I
beautiful.
edited it, but I didn't edit it for a year because I'm a
Mm-hmm.
foreigner, obviously, and I had to smooth out things, repetitions, and 400-page book. You have to truly present the ideas. You might say things, same things sometimes, have to say it in a
Mm-hmm.
different way so you can touch different people's receptors in different ways so that they can have their aha moments at different points in the book, depending on the reader and their experience. But after the editing of a year, 6 months writing, 1 year of editing, then I forwarded to my publisher and professional editor. It was a smoother process because I knew I had to work a lot on my language, on everything, and
Right.
it was a great experience. It truly enhanced my English. I thought I knew English well after having graduated doctoral degree in music and then nursing school and all that, but it's actually amazing what you learn when you put your thoughts on paper and you're responsible to present them in ways that others will understand. They hopefully be receptive to, or you can piss off some people, which I did, of course. Yes.
And that's okay. It's
Yeah,
okay
yeah,
to
but
ruffle
it's
people's
inevitable.
feathers sometimes.
It's very much so because, I mean, you have to understand that you need a big kick in the rear from yourself
Yeah.
mostly to accomplish, to get anywhere in life. Because I can give you advice until I'm blue in the face. You can give me advice until you're blue in the face.
Mm-hmm.
But if we don't do our respective steps in action, uh, we're beyond help. And that's what I
Exactly.
see with many, many people, not just in the health sphere, but also financial and relationship spheres of
Yeah.
life.
And that is just the programming that we've had. Our parents, our great grandparents, whatnot. They were all programmed in a way that finances and money was like evil. So they've had to go through all that. And I am grateful because my grandfather, we were not wealthy, but we were comfortable. And he always had his own business since Cuba and never worked for anybody here in the United States. And my uncle as well, my grandmother. So, I come from a line of entrepreneurs, in that
Excellent.
sense. But they wanted to, they came here for the American dream. And then they realized, well, what is really the American dream? And they were not educated enough to know what it was. And back then, we didn't have all the resources we have now. What I
Exactly.
mean? So I was raised seeing money as something normal. We had it. It was fine. And when we didn't have it, learn to live without it. It's fine. And then you do things to figure out what are the steps next, but it took a very long time for myself because it's not that I had a bad relationship with money. I just didn't have the confidence. And that's why this book is so amazing because when we lack that confidence in any area of our lives, it affects everything. It's not just, let's say, your finances. It can affect your health. It could affect
It's all
your
connected.
spirituality.
It's all connected.
It's all
Absolutely.
intertwined. Yeah, yeah. And it's
Mhm.
funny because when my husband and I met almost 7 years ago, we decided that we wanted to leave Florida and move to the mountains. We didn't know where we were going to go, but we just wanted to get away from everything. And I wanted to go on my healing journey because I had gone through a lot of stuff in my life. So I had no idea what any of that was going to look like. And about 2.5 years ago, we came across Tony Robbins. He knew about Tony Robbins for a little while, and I kind of heard about him and stuff like that, but never really, tapped into him. And then one day he's like, why don't we go to this event in Florida, the UPW, Unleash the Power Within. And I said, you know what, let's go. Why not?
I think he lives there right now because he left
Yeah, he lives
California.
there.
So
Yeah, he lives there now. And the event was extraordinary. I'm talking about from 9 in the morning to like it was 2 o'clock in the morning. I had to go back at by 12:30. I was done. I was exhausted. So I left. I went to the Airbnb and he stayed, and my husband did the fireworks. And he said that was just amazing. And then after that, we bought his packages. We've done Mastery, we've done a whole bunch of them, just a whole bunch. And then I started realizing that it takes time to implement all those things because it's a lot of information, but it
Absolutely.
takes commitment. You have to be committed.
Yes.
You have to be consistent. And I
Disciplined.
discipline. And you know what?
Mm-hmm.
And to be quite honest, that has been our hardest thing to do. The discipline, the commitment, and all that for myself personally, because I was sick. I was going through severe depression. I had vertigo. I had tinnitus. I was losing my memory. Couldn't sleep at night. I will wake up 8 in the morning because my dog would be like, "Mom, I need to go to the bathroom and I need to eat." So she will wake me up. But by 12 o'clock in the afternoon, I was back in bed. And this is after we opened up our business. This was almost 2 years into our business, our real estate investment business. And I was doing Airbnb and all that. And then my grandmother passed, and I lost it. To me, it was like the worst thing that ever happened to me was losing my grandmother because her and I were so connected. Yeah, and I went into a very severe depression. I did not want to live anymore. I was like, what is the purpose of all this? And it was hard to implement anything that I had learned or was learning through all this. And after I went on my healing journey and I started realizing, things, and my mental started getting healthier and I became healthier and I had more energy. And, I started saying, why is it taking so long for us to be able to, like, do things that I see other people in the in Tony Robbins community doing. And then and it's funny, I read your book, and this is just recently that I'm like, I know what it is, and it's been coming up. The consistency, the all that, and I'm just like, well, how do I do that? How do I become consistent again? How do I become someone that really wants to be committed to all these things that I want to do? How do I put that in practice? Because when I got sick, I had to deprogram myself completely to
Mm-hmm.
reprogram myself to someone new.
You
So
do,
I'm still
yes,
learning
yeah.
all these things. And as I'm reading your book, I'm like, holy shit. And I told my husband this last night. I said, you know what it is? That we take these, let's say, like for Tony Robbins, for example, we take a course and then we learn whatever it is for 5 days, but then we're having a hard time applying it and being consistent with it every single day of our lives. If it's not because we travel here or something happens or our jobs or different projects, how do we really implement and stay consistent and committed every single day? And when I started reading your book, I'm like, you know what? No, you have to just make a decision, have that
Mm-hmm.
conviction and say there's nothing that's going to compromise this. And you got to have that relentless attitude and willingness to say, no, this is my life and I want better for me, right?
Well, yeah, you can be full of excuses. I mean, people are full of excuses and they call them
That's true.
arguments, and they're really not arguments. They're mostly excuses, justifications, rationalizations for wasting very precious time when they get back into their routine environments, because it's not just the work and the obligations, but also their desperate desire to escape their work and obligations, and then they socialize for or watch videos or do whatever online entertainment. That's precious time that's wasted. The day you can learn
Mm-hmm.
about health, dieting, you can dedicate 2.5 hours to go to fitness and do rigorous exercise, or you
Yeah.
can learn finances. I mean, there's so much you can do with your free time because you do have 24 hours a day. But how you use that 24 hours is vitally important. And I can assure you that most of the people that you guys saw on that seminar, they do have similar struggles. They do
Yeah.
have similar struggles once they get back home. And it's really those who choose to remember the implications of not being disciplined and not taking the action over the next 10, 20, 30 years, because Robbins, he's big on saying, people always overestimate what they can accomplish in a year and they give up, but they always underestimate what can be accomplished in 15 years.
Yeah.
And these are the people who don't give up because they know it's a long-term process. I mean, obviously, sorry, but optimal health,
Yeah.
perpetual wealth, and relationship prioritization, these are lifelong efforts. These are lifelong efforts. It's not 5 days. It's not 1 month. It's not 5 years. It's for the time you're alive. You're responsible to keep these aspects elevated in your life if you truly want to be around that person and in control of your life. That's
Yeah.
just so simple.
Yeah, that is very true. And health is to me the main thing because of my experience that when you don't have health, you don't have anything. You can't do
Right.
nothing, you
That's right.
know, and when you're losing your memory and when you can't, and I've always been that person too. Like I have a photographic memory. Like I could
Right. Yeah.
remember everything. And when that was happening to me, I'm like, oh my God. I mean, my business, I had to take a huge step back and it was horrible because I felt so not confident. And I went through like a horrible, a horrible moment of where's my confidence? Who am I? And that was scary. That was very scary. And I wanted to terminate myself, eliminate
Mhm.
myself, if you want to say it that way, because I was like, shit, I can't do anything ever again. Like I'm done. And then I was like, wait a second, that's not me thinking about this. That's that mind. The mind is tricky. And if you allow the
Yes.
mind to really, say whatever it wants, you fall into that rabbit hole of darkness, you're done. You know what I
That's
mean?
right. That's right. Yeah. Oh,
You're
I know
done.
exactly what you mean. Yes.
Yeah, I know you do. I know you've gone through your own stuff. So the next question is, as a martial artist and musician, how do you integrate discipline from these practices into your daily life and work?
So the musician really instilled discipline, the work ethic. Okay.
Mm,
You stop working when you're done, not when you're tired. So that's
mm,
the from the musician. Then the other aspect, of course, music can be very therapeutic. Music can be invigorating. Music can be inspiring, can be relaxing, can be also very organized. There are different
yeah.
types of music I listen to every day, depending what
Mm,
my goals are. I never listen to music while I work though, and while I
okay.
do whatever. No, but if I'm in a mode when it's my relaxing time, then I listen to music for what I need to organize in my head. For instance,
Mm-hmm,
I discovered a lot of Baroque music composers that really we never played for all the time that I was a musician. And because I
mm-hmm,
keep discovering more and more works, and I found that, for example, Baroque music helps me tremendously organize my financial plans in my head and implement them over the
wow.
course of years. And that's a very interesting discovery that I never had before as a musician, because
Mm,
as a musician, I was a pure financial invalid. So I didn't know this music and organize my thought process in that way. But then there is other music for other purposes. But as far as the practicing of music, which I used to do until 2011 when I entered the workforce as a nurse, the work ethic is what really what helps me today with everything else I do. As far as the martial arts, that was a dream of mine since the third grade, and
okay.
that
Mm-hmm.
really pissed off my father, as you saw in chapter
I
one,
read
when
that in the book. I was like,
yeah,
oh boy.
it's not a pleasant moment, but yes, I managed to realize that dream when I was 30 in the United States.
Wow.
I earned a black belt in Shorin Goju Karate, then later on a blue belt in Aikido, and then I hit the fitness gym 4 days a week for 2.5 hours a day because I wanted my own structure, my own program,
Mm,
and I got tired of the dojo politics, but that's a separate issue. The
yeah.
thing with martial arts is it really instills more things in me, and it's besides the technique. Of course, the technique is amazing. I'm absolutely adamant that every woman needs to know how to fight very well and defend herself to the absolute best of her ability. And it doesn't happen with just 3 months or 1 week self-defense class. I recommend at least 5 years martial arts to develop the mindset of you being able to defend yourself with your dignity and the life and dignity of your loved ones, no matter what. So it's a
Mm,
mindset that you develop, because I know lots of people who know technique, but they can't defend themselves because they don't have the
right.
mindset. So,
Right.
first of all, self-control with martial arts. And you always apply these principles then into the real dojo, which is called life, right? So self-control, then you learn the respect for others, then you learn the perseverance and resilience, and eventually you emulate and you acquire self-respect. To me,
Right.
that was the hardest thing, because I was so used to bash myself and degrade myself and
Right.
humiliate myself for the sake of just, and very low confidence for over 20 years as a musician. And I had tremendous stage fright issues from my
Oh wow.
teenage on. So this was where, to me, the martial arts experience, the self-respect aspect came last. It was really gratifying, because when you finally understand that you deserve respect no less than anybody else. So
Mm,
you're not more important, you're not less important than anybody else, you're just as important. And if we are all as
right.
important as everybody else, then we respect the other person and we respect ourselves the same way. And that's what allows you to voice your desires, your dreams, and work on them without any sense of guilt. That also allows you to set limits with other people when they're crossing a line and overstepping your goals or anything for that matter. It's an amazing thing to accomplish. And it doesn't have to come very late in life. I saw there were lots of teenage students with my karate teacher. He was a national champion,
Right.
Master Greg Tierney, Greg Tierney, his amazing wife, Ashley Judy Woodapre Tierney. You will read about this in chapter 6. You get there. But these people truly were emulating self-respect and self-control and all the principles they taught. I saw them in their teenage students that had started at age 5 or 6 for them. And they were now teenagers. And I was always thinking, gosh, I wish I was so confident as a teenager. But I really had the dream to start karate at age 9, but I was a violinist, and my father, that's no question.
Yeah.
Karate and violin, what if I break a finger?
Yeah.
All these principles, then you pass on to your health practices, onto your spiritual practices, onto your career practices, how you help others, and and then your financial principles in your business and in your relationships. It's truly integrated, and it is a way of life. Martial arts is a way of life, and if you're able to transform that into your actual your daily routine, then you're doing very well. And again, it's a lifelong effort because life presents us with different situations. So life is what happens in spite of what we plan. And the way we react and we adapt and we adjust and we resolve the challenges is really all about martial art thinking and black belt mentality and all this wonderful stuff that they talk about, but not everybody realizes, well, really life is where I have to apply these principles because I'm at the dodge for 1 hour, that's great, 2 hours, but then what happens when I get out? And that's just all about that there is about.
So I hear that brings in a lot of discipline. It helps with the discipline part, which is great. And, it's funny because as a kid, I remember going to karate classes, and my father raised me to be very masculine. He always wanted a boy, and then God gave him a girl, and he was like, well, I got to teach my daughter how to fight and defend herself. So, since I was a kid, I used to love hanging out with my cousins, all the boys, and we used to wrestle and fight and all these different things. And my dad was one of my teachers. He used to teach me how to fight because he had a lot of street knowledge in Cuba. He knew how people were and what I needed to know to defend myself, especially in a place that he never really knew, like the United States. He knew Cuba, but he he didn't know America the way that he knew Cuba. This is now what I know. And, so I went to karate class, and I remember my last belt was my brown belt. And after that, I just completely stopped. And I don't even remember now why I stopped, but I always had this passion for martial arts. Being raised with a father that loved, Bruce Lee. And I know, right? Man, he would watch Bruce Lee all the time. So,
what's funny to say that, sorry for interrupting you, but when saying, okay. So what is the ideal body type for you for a man? They ask me sometimes. I said, well, Bruce Lee, of course. I never expect to hear that. They're like, I said, well, yeah, every muscle is showing. There's functional, practical muscles. 137-pound weapon for mass destruction. That's the ideal male body. Because they expect you to say Arnie Schwartz and they care more, And I never say that, but yeah, sorry for interrupting. I was just
no, it's okay. That's funny.
Lee, amazing martial artist.
Oh, amazing, amazing. And, it's funny because we just found the other day here, because we live in the mountains of North Georgia. So there's not a lot of stuff in these little towns. And we were driving and I said, wait a second, is that a martial arts place? Because we've been talking about getting into martial arts for discipline, for self-control, for a lot of different things. And also because even though I was raised to know how to fight and defend myself, as I got older and I went through my own mental issues or challenges, I kind of brought in a lot of fears. You know what I mean? So that's why I call myself Fearless Goddess, because life has brought in fears and I have to overcome all those fears. So I have no problem overcoming them. But with me getting sick and my body not being as strong as it used to be, I'm like, I need to get into something that's going to bring in the discipline, the strength, the conviction, the mental. You right? So we've been talking about it for a few months now, and finally we saw that place, and we're actually going to get into doing that even as a couple, because it'll help even our relationship and everything else that we're going through. So I'm excited for the martial arts that we're going to start doing.
If it's a good school, it's worth it, definitely. I mean, depending on the standards for it. well, you want a school that doesn't have like soft standards for advancement, because many of the martial arts schools are really money-making machines. And
Mm-hmm.
you can see people that, I mean, just when you go to look at several classes, see are they more talking and socializing and laughing and giggling or actually practicing? This is a
Right.
very good
Okay.
indicator, but that will
Yeah.
take more than one class. I would go
Mm,
to several classes to find out what really is going on in the school. You want to see their levels, their black belts, how
okay.
the level of their belts, um, more advanced versus less advanced, because there are many types of schools, there are many types of martial arts, and tons of business approaches in America. Then, of course, the other problem is insurance and lawyers. As you may
Mm,
know, that standards have
okay.
softened significantly because lots of parents now sue the instructors if their kid gets boo-booed by another kid. And martial arts is
Right.
really about fighting. And old school, there was no lawyers, there were no lawyers. Insurance, you just learn to
No.
fight the real way. And this has been like really cut off now from lots of practices, and it's just harming the schools and the practice
Mm,
and the mindset and everything. So if you have more than one place to compare, that would be awesome if you can.
okay.
Otherwise, if you like the place that's qualified, that's ideal, of course. I
At
mean,
least to
depending on your
start off,
goals.
right?
Yeah, start off.
Yeah. At least to start off, because I know, like you mentioned in the book, in one of your classes, I remember you were, I guess, fighting another kid, and he was bigger and
No,
I
no,
guess
he was not a kid. He was a grown-ass man. He was
a
a
grown
30
man.
pound, 300-ass grown man. Yeah, and
Right.
he had
Okay.
no
And he
control.
messed up your
Hmm.
ribs and everything. And you were telling the teacher, like, oh, can I like do this, like maybe a little bit slower or less, like,
No,
and
what
he
happened
was
was
like, tell
he
me.
cracked the rib on me, and because I was like quarter of a second late to block it, and the next day, I mean, I was in pain. I could barely breathe, and I told Hamshik, who was exactly the national champion. I told him about my master because we were training for a
Uh-huh.
black belt test. We were in the black belt cycle 3 months, and he was beating
Right.
us into submission with 500 push-ups in a session,
Oh
500
my gosh.
sit-ups, whatever, in between all the katas and sparring rounds. And I said, told him, today, can I just kind of more soft on the push-ups because I'm really in
And he
pain.
was
It's
like, nope.
cracked rib. There is nothing in there. He says, well, he put a smile. He rarely smiled that way, but that was a special occasion. Smile. He said, young lady, do you want your black belt? I said, yes, sir. In that case, you do push-ups with everybody else, and I don't care how much it hurts. I just thought about 2 seconds and said, yes, sir. Thank you, sir. I carried on because he was playing by the rules of
What
black
did you
belt
learn from
mentality.
that? Yeah. What did you
He was
learn from
playing
that?
by the rule, but he had been injured multiple times. He had been a national, hundreds of thousands of fights, for real the competitive
Yeah.
fights, and he had several joints replaced. And now I was
Oh my
telling
God.
him, now a rib for 2 pounds. And I was like, I'm not buying that. I just didn't care. He was 70 and I was 31.6. So it was really, yeah, a dumb thing to say to him. But I sincerely was in pain, but I figured, well, if that's what I try. And he said, no, you're doing push-ups and otherwise no blood. So, yeah.
Mm. So what did
Mhm.
that teach you in that moment or in a little bit after that? What was it that came to you and you tapped in and you were like, oh, this is why he was so strong with me. And not that he didn't care about me, but this is what this taught me.
Well, I immediately knew why he was saying that because he had experience that was much worse than mine, and if he had persevered, he knew I could, because he knew his
Mm,
students very well. He was a very perceptive man, uh, 57, 60 years experience in martial arts, so he knew that a cracked rib, wouldn't really interfere with push-ups, and you still can try your best to do them, but you have to try because life will present you with much worse challenges than just crack rib in the dojo. Okay, because you can have several crack ribs in the street fight. And are you gonna
mm.
then want to take a break and tell your attackers to just give you a break in the water break and sweat wipe
Oh,
break?
yeah,
No, you
no,
become a
yeah.
statistic. So that was basically his idea, and he always told us, guys,
Mm.
you will persevere here because it's not even a real life situation. So if you can persevere here, what are we gonna do in a real life situation? And that was an
You could
excellent
do
point.
anything. Yeah, yeah, you
Exactly.
could persevere in anything. That is so true. Now, what role does self-confidence play in achieving holistic health and how can one cultivate it?
So it's a two-way thing. When you become confident that you can accomplish whatever you want, then you really start pushing yourself towards holistic health. So in my situation, it's whole food, organic, vegan diet. I go to the gym 2.5 hours a day, minimum 4 days a week, even if I don't feel like. And then detox every day. As far as the confidence aspect, when you do this with your health, when you have the integrity and you don't compromise your health decisions, that also helps tremendously build your confidence even more and more and elevate that aspect because you know that you can be disciplined, you know you can persevere. And if you think about it, like horrible food in this country is one of the biggest temptations in society, and also entertainment that is sedentary, that is not doesn't allow for movement and just sweat and called up muscle pain and everything. The comfort zone is also a big temptation. So if you overcome these temptations and you do the other things instead, you eat healthy, you deny yourself food, it becomes out of the question. You become confident that you can resist temptations that most people can't resist. And you can also apply this in your work ethic. At work, you can apply it with your financial planning. Say you want to buy some stupid flashy object and that will compromise your savings for the down payment towards the next investment property that will bring you real cash flow for generations. That type of mindset, delayed gratification for a good reason, is what truly helps. And it goes both ways with the health habits. You build the health habits because you already are confident that you can build them, but they also help you reconfirm and reestablish and reinforce your confidence level because you persevered and you endured and you said no to the right people when they told you, oh, we can eat, an egg now. You can make an exception. And not making exceptions. I've not eaten eggs for 7 years. I'm not going to compromise because you want to feel better about your crappy habits. That's basically what it is with relatives and friends and colleagues. That's what it is about. And it really boosts the confidence that you are self-reliant. You don't need others to tell you what to do. And you're doing very, very well for yourself.
Yeah. It's funny because, Cuban again, Fidel Castro, all that, you eat whatever, is available. You can pick and choose in those countries that are, like that. And for me, eggs and rice has always been the poor people food. You always, if you don't have anything else, if you're struggling financially or whatnot, that's always been the food to go to, right? At least for
keep the rice.
my culture.
Keep the rice at all times.
Keep the rice at all times for sure. I love rice.
Keep the rice at all times.
But then the eggs, it's like shit. I was raised with a grandmother that she was a farmer. She was a country girl. We had chickens and eggs and all kinds of.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah, ma'am.
But things nowadays, they're not like before. The animals are being, raised differently. They put so many antibiotics and all kinds of chemicals and stuff in them, hormones. Very contaminated, and that is what's causing all the inflammation, the cancers, all that stuff in our bodies. Because, don't get me wrong, I love meat, but then I think of, shoot, I'm eating a cow, poor little cow, because I love animals. I've connected so much with nature in the last year that I feel bad when I drive through a place and they're like, oh, this is a deer processing place. And I'm like, really? Or a cow
it's a huge ethical aspect in that. I know that animal activists who go to these slaughterhouses, they have PTSD after they hear these animals scream being slaughtered and watching their friends being slaughtered. And so to be honest with you, my boyfriend and I, we did it for health reasons. Okay. But the ethical aspect is just as important. And many vegan people go vegan because of ethics, even though they were healthy beforehand. Yeah, that's an excellent point.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Remember, there was this study in 1951. I mentioned it in chapter 4, I believe, when the study was done by 2 scientists that explored Norway. Because we're talking about dirty meat today versus cleaner meats in the early 20th century. When Hitler was feeding his machine, he suspended the livestock from the Norwegian farmers to feed his war machine. So for quite some time, several years, that they could not use their livestock, and the derivative products are the animals, meaning the milk, eggs, butter, all the broth. And they did have a certain heart disease related rate in Norway, which fell dramatically when they were not able to eat their livestock. And then Hitler returned. He didn't, but he got, obviously the war ended and he got killed and all that. But, then they were able to retain their livestock and eat it again. And the heart disease-related death rate climbed exactly to where it was before he suspended the livestock. And I'm saying this only because, and I put it in the book, because their animals were much cleaner than today's farm industry animals, and they were still not healthy for the heart. Today's contamination of the animal products, we really worry about cancer, neurological disorders, autoimmune disease. But the heart, cardiovascular health risks have always been there. We just never learned.
It's funny because I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia 7.5, almost 8 years ago. And I refused that diagnosis. I refused to own it. I was like, no, I'll heal myself. Like, this is not mine for me to have. But now that, I do more research, I look into more of healthy things, and, everything is a process. I realize, these cows or these different meats, they bring in all these inflammations, all these things into your body. And then you're
Exactly.
wondering why you can even like sleep well, because it
Yeah.
affects everything. So, I mean, honestly, my favorite meat to eat is lamb, because lamb has always been like the healthiest of all, meats in my understanding. But even that, I'm just like, I'm going to have to
And it's
really,
also very tasty, lamb, goat meat. I mean, taste is never an argument. And it is
yeah,
healthier to an extent because it's a young animal, but think of what they are eating. And if the grass is with GMO soil and whatever they're being fed,
yeah,
again, you're taking your chances. And still lamb meat, whatever meat it is, it does cause the inflammation for the cardiovascular system and all the
yeah.
cholesterol that's even much lower in a lamb, of course. But
Even if they're
again,
being raised healthy,
cumulative damage.
even
Mhm.
if they're raised healthy in a healthy farm with healthy soil, healthy everything, they still cause that?
Yes, and especially depending how much you eat. But the point is,
Uh,
you really don't need animals to supply your protein for your body because
okay.
the only natural producers of protein are the plants. I mean, think about the
Mm.
animals that people are eating. They're all plant-fed animals. How in the world do they get their protein, right? Through plants.
Through the plants?
So
Yeah.
the animal is just a mediator for you to, get protein, but it's all perpetuated over the last 70, 80 years by the animal industry. And then they make the big argument about amino acids and vitamin B12. You can only, have it through animal products. Well, no, because there are lots of patients who
So,
only eat animal products and they're vitamin B12 deficient. Okay, and that is
yeah.
because the bacterium that makes vitamin B12 lives in the soil. Animal eats that soil with their, mouth when they eat,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have vitamin B12. But if you are blasting these animals with antibiotics and whatnot, most of the grocery stores animals, even the organic grown animals, they give them drugs. And the antibiotics, they don't only kill the bad bacteria in the animals, but also the good bacteria, including the bacterium that makes vitamin B12. So then you have these people who eat
Wow.
meat and animal products, and they're vitamin B12 deficient. I mean, come on. It
Yeah,
makes absolutely
it
no
makes no
sense.
sense. Yeah, it makes
Mhm.
no sense. That's crazy. I came across an article the other day, and they were talking about how the condition with fibromyalgia is a deficiency in your D3, like you need D3 vitamin, and that's all fibromyalgia really is a deficiency of your vitamin D3. And I was like, that makes sense to me, but I don't know. You've done a lot of research on this. What is your thought on that?
I mean, they've done tons of research with these patients. There is nothing physically wrong with them, absolutely nothing physically wrong with them to have this muscle pain and, fibromyalgia of their muscle fibers are hurting. It's truly considered to be the physical manifestation of depression, physical manifestation of depressive state. And it's mostly women that have it. I've had
Yeah.
very much fewer male patients than female patients. And one was a very
Mm.
legitimate case because she had lost her son, who was killed by
Oh
some
my God.
criminals like 3 or 5 years before I met that person, and she had me having fibromyalgia ever since then, and she was very
Wow.
depressed, and it was just manifesting her body's pain. Other people,
Mm.
I haven't, because she was the one that was generous enough to tell me what triggers the disease. Other patients don't uh, give you the history unless you're there exactly for that problem, but I'm usually there for a completely different problem to see the patient in their
Right.
house. With fibromyalgia, like everything else, and anything is reversible if you fuel your body the right nutrients and you
Right.
exercise it, because quality exercise and quality nutrition don't substitute each other. So you have to have both. You need the movement. We live like so many more times sedentary lifestyle than our grandparents did, even our parents.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you in Cuba, you were playing in the streets and running around and biking and
Oh, I
playing
don't
ball,
know. I came
whatever.
when I was 2 years old, so I don't really
Oh, I
remember
see. Okay.
Cuba. But I was raised in Miami, and I was raised very Cuban, in that culture. And they had a very different mentality when it came to food. They had that survival mentality. And
Yeah,
obviously,
but
when
what
we
about
came
the
here,
exercise and playing around with children and having body movement and everything? You didn't guys do
you know
that
what?
because
That really didn't happen as much.
mm,
My family wasn't, at least my grandparents were not really like that. They worked a lot. That was their exercise. My grandfather was in construction. That was kind of like his kind of exercise daily, so 6, 7 days a week. My father never was one to go to the gym. My mom, that I know of, I never saw her. But my grandmother tells me when she was a kid, she used to do all kinds of different things. She was a skater. She played baseball,
Yeah.
like all these things as a kid. But as
See,
an
because when I
adult,
was growing up in Bulgaria, we played in the streets a lot when I was
yeah,
allowed to play, not practice the violin, that is, but it was a lot more motion and physical activity than today's kids do.
yeah,
Okay. So, I mean, even if you eat goods, I have seen
yeah,
vegans that are overweight because they don't exercise. And then, of course, they eat
mm,
processed vegan food, which is not the from the soil vegan food. So we have
yeah,
arguments there too. But you can't, you can also exercise and eat crappy food. You can get a heart attack early if you are
yep.
not careful with your diet, because you have all these people with wonderful looking muscles and they get heart attacks at age 39, 40.
That
You
is
wouldn't
true. I've
expect
seen
that
that a
either.
lot.
Yeah,
Yeah, and if
because
you're not educated, you're like, well, I thought he was healthy. Why would he have a heart attack or she? And it
they can
happens.
think they can eat everything when they're exercising, and that's anything but the truth. That couldn't be further from the truth.
It's funny because my mom told me like about 3 weeks ago, she's like, oh yeah, my doctor says that I can have the oil from the pork that is really good for you. And I said, Mom,
The lard,
what?
you know.
I said, that is not good for you. That will clog your arteries, everything. That is not good for you. I mean, come on, like put it together. She's like, well, he cured his wife from I don't know what. And I said, well, that's what he's telling you, but what is it? What's the truth? Because if I know pork is one of those meats that, yes, it tastes fantastic. Us Cubans, we were raised on pork, most of our lives, but pork is one of those meats that's not the healthiest, and especially the oil that
The
comes from it.
most unhealthy meat, pork.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the most unhealthiest. So I kind of had to take that out of her mind because, she doesn't know. She'll listen to a doctor like a lot of us do and just go
yeah.
with what the doctor tells us. And they don't know. A lot of them, they don't. They don't know what's really healthy for you. And then you're looking at them, like you said, they're fat. You know what I mean? They're not the
Yeah,
healthiest.
problem is they don't spend time in medical school to study nutrition. They get like an hour or 2 hours of nutrition, and everything else is
Wow.
pharmaceutical. Whereas in nursing school, I did have a semester on nutrition, which I can safely say that was the absolute most complicated class I ever took, was nutrition.
Really?
And it was constructed around the American food pyramid, USDA food pyramid, which is full of
Mm-hmm.
animal products and unhealthy stuff. And that's because these nutritionists, their education is paid by the animal industry. So it's guided by, just like the medical education is paid by the pharmaceutical industry. Nutritionists, dietitians, I mean, I have seen dietitians who are very obviously overweight. They call themselves
Mm-hmm.
nutritionists. They call themselves dietitians. I'm like, what are you doing? You know, it's amazing to see that. And
Yeah.
again, the nutrition class was complicated, a lot to learn. And the sad part is that it's really not propagating healthy food, even if you take a nutrition class. So when you're a doctor that only studied nutrition 1 or 2 hours in their entire medical school, because that's what some doctors have told me, we barely spend an hour on nutrition. That's just might as well not do it. But you have to do research outside of your schooling, your formal
Wow.
schooling, because the formal schooling is not geared towards disease elimination. It is
No.
geared towards maintenance of disease. And it's a completely different business model mindset, and the
Yeah.
mindset you're ingraining in your patients, because the chronic disease mindset is the hardest thing to reverse. It's not hard to go on a diet for a week or two, but it's the mindset that prevents them from continuing on that diet. And then you have the families that have the same mindset that you are now chronically sick, and that's the way it is. And well, why put the effort when you're chronically sick anyway? So it's just this horrible catch-22 mutual poor influence in the family of the chronically sick person. And if there is more than one, if there is more than one chronically sick person in the family, it becomes
Yeah.
that much more challenging to reverse that whole thought process and get them on the right path and reverse their conditions. It's very, very challenging to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I know.
a
I,
lot of
I
work
I
to
know
do.
it can be very challenging. And talking to my husband, we're like, the United States looking, because I did research. I went on Google and I brought up the different, like food sources that either the Heart Association or the Diabetes Association, all them, and I'm looking at it like this is not healthy. They're
They're
literally,
all paid by the animal industry to put their products on their
yeah,
websites. Every single one of them is paid millions of dollars by the animal industry,
that is
which
sad.
comprises the meat, egg, and dairy industries. That's the animal industry umbrella. They're paid by these industries to put their extremely unhealthy products on their websites as good, healthy choices. Yeah.
That's crazy. And,
Thanks,
like
criminal.
no, it is. It's very criminal. I mean, I even told my husband, I said, if you look at, and this is some of the research I've done lately, is you look at Europe, you look at other countries, it's not as bad. You know what I mean? There's certain things, like if you go to, let's say, Spain, you have certain foods and stuff that you eat there that are not contaminated. They don't have the chemicals. They don't have all the stuff that the United States has. You
A
can't
lot of
go
that
through.
stuff is forbidden, yes, for health
Yeah, it's
concerns.
forbidden.
But on the other hand, have you seen the Belgium health minister?
No, no.
Google the Belgium health minister. I think she was not a former health minister, but she's a good 400 pounds probably. Yeah,
Really?
that was a big
Oh,
scandal to what
Jesus.
it was
Wow.
discussed. Why is this woman a health minister of Belgium? Yeah. So
Do you think
again,
that also that is part of your it's from your ancestors, some things that come in from you inherit these different DNA signatures of unhealthy whatever, like you think that
well,
can be also
you
part of
can,
that?
yeah, you can inherit the predisposition for certain diseases, but you also inherit the lifestyles of your family
Mm.
members. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what epigenetics is all about. Genetics is great, very nice, and some things are honestly inherited, legitimately inherited, but epigenetics is what you can do to prevent certain disease manifestations through lifestyle change. Because our ancestors, I mean, they didn't have the best health habits. My grandparents
Yeah.
didn't. My parents
Yeah.
should. No, and you can change that. You can choose to not repeat that lifestyle, and then let's see how sick you get. Well, guess what? In most cases, you won't get sick like them because you're
Yeah.
not doing what they're doing to promote these disease processes in the body.
That's crazy. So, what challenges did you face in your journey towards the holistic health, and how did you overcome them? Because I know that's very crucial, especially with your, the conditioning, the programming that society and everything has. How did you overcome any of those challenges?
Yeah, well, basically, first of all, to set your own limits with relatives who are skeptical about your health aspirations and tell them to shut their mouths and do their thing and let you do your thing. Then the other thing is that you have to constantly learn because the information changes. There's a lot of propaganda on the internet, especially with Google. You need to pay attention to labels. You need to pay attention to trends, how well labeled the products are, and you never really stop educating yourself in that way. Then, of course, you have price changes, product changes, manufacturers changes. You need to check how trusted they are in all of these grocery stores that are keeping,
Mm-hmm.
because every business is trying to save money. So the products that they
Right.
offer you are not necessarily the best for your health. If it's not labeled, so I don't buy it. If it doesn't say USD organic or non-GMO or both, preferably, I don't buy that product if it's not labeled. I'll leave it on the shelf. But and then, of course, you need to find a time to research the grocery stores for your product needs and see which products is sold best and the best quality and the best price everywhere with holistic health. And then as far as fitness, of course, you shop for the best place to do your fitness routines that is caters to your goals, fitness goals, because I have very ambitious fitness goals. Not everybody does. Everything is
Yeah.
integrated with your time management. And as far as challenges with holistic health, like I said, I mean, it's really first overcome the limitations from friends and loved ones. Then you have to learn how to not use the limitations they're trying to impose you as excuses for not changing your health. Because many people like to say that, well, my husband is not motivating me at all to change my diet and lose weight. And why should your husband motivate you to? You should motivate yourself, right? So I hear this
Yeah,
excuse all the
exactly.
time. I never had the problem with these excuses because I really hated them when my parents were saying them, and I wanted to be different
Mm-hmm.
from my parents. So I never used these excuses, but I had to limit their, protestations as to my, because I stopped eating meat and poultry when I was 24. That's 2000. I became vegan 7 years ago. I ditched all the other animal products and the fish products, but 24, they were very unhappy that I became half vegetarian. My father, said, oh, but they vegetarians, they say they're crazy. They are every vegetarian now is crazy. They're insane. And I told him, what makes you think that you are not crazy? He started yelling. He didn't like that answer, but
Yeah.
we had very honest conversations most of the time. But once you overcome the relatives, then you have to overcome the industry, the marketing, the labeling and lack of labeling. So it's a lot of education. And it's
Well,
constant because new research comes along every couple of years, every year. A lot of the research is not necessarily readily accessible. And It's just you have to keep informed, and you just have to persevere through that constant influx of information and try to make sense of it. So this is a
Yeah.
challenge for many people, okay? But I just have made it a must in my life, and truthfully, you have to keep it very simple, very, very simple. If it comes from organic soil, it's
Mm-hmm.
okay. Clean organic soil. So what region is coming from? Is it any radioactive issues? You gotta, so you need to know political events to an extent and environmental events to know if a product that's supposedly organic, but how contaminated is the air in that region? It's hard. It's hard to do. And people
Yeah.
don't want to put the time into it because it really can be very time consuming. But once you learn the basic principles, say a couple years, you get the
Mm-hmm.
idea where something looks too good to be true, perhaps it is. So do your research, do your shopping, and your resources. And then you have the other challenge with the supplement industry, Jackie. You know how many people they eat the bad food
Oh
and then
my
they
God.
take supplements because they want to find excuses for continuing eating the bad food. I don't take any supplements on a regular basis. I'm almost 50 years old. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's another challenge because these are tempting things, temptations that you have to resist from a industry that wants to be very healthy. They do
Yeah.
come from the healthy premise indeed, but they're
Yeah.
also business. And
Of
they
course.
tell you, oh, well, you don't have to change your nutrition. Just take this capsule, and they have to be $30 a monthly supply. So you become their salary,
Yeah.
$30 a month, So you have to look at these things and see what makes sense, follow the money, and ask yourself, okay, if I have a dirty tank, do I have to drug and supplement the fish in a dirty tank, or can I clean the tank first? Because that is my
Exactly.
responsibility. That's something I can do. So all these questions, when you start asking yourselves, it becomes a challenge because you
Mm.
may become overwhelmed at first, question your choices all the time, and the challenge is to give up, questioning yourself until you find what actually works. These have been
Yeah.
the challenges, but I'm happy to have had these challenges because once you overcome these challenges, again, you transfer that ability to solve problems and answer questions properly in all the other
Yeah.
areas of your life because everything is
No, no, that is true. And I've become such a researcher of everything now. And, it's funny because being in the mountains, you would think that the soil is 100% clean, organic. And yes, for the most part. But, I question this because, you see the planes that are dropping all these chemicals on all these things on the soil from up there. And I'm just looking at it like, wait a second, can we even eat organic 100% if the farms that are, 100% organic, they do they have healthy soil, they do everything the right way. Now, how do you overcome what is being, brought down from up there from
I
these
mean, you just
planes?
do the best you can. Exactly, exactly. That's where detox come into play, though. I
Okay.
detox every day. Okay, so I don't chance it at all, even though I depesticide all of my produce very carefully every week. I soak it
Okay.
in the baking soda, the salt, whatever. But detox, you got to detox exactly because the environmental contaminants are
Doses.
not something that we can control. We can control what chemicals we have in our house, but the air
Right.
we breathe, to an extent, the water we drink, even with a full house water filtration system, you have to be mindful that there are still toxins. That is unavoidable unless you go
Mm.
on an uninhabited island. Nobody has to contaminate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Uh,
And
so,
that's hard.
so realistically speaking, this is the biggest challenge. And I'm glad you brought it up because uh, detox is profoundly important to me. And people dread it because they think, it's this dirty, awful process. No, it's actually the cleaning of your body from the inside, just like you shower every day out home. Clean your
Yeah.
body from the outside. The inside of your body is just as important. So that's where detox comes in. And a lot
Mm.
of the organic vegan plants, they have very high detox potencies and how do you say qualities,
Right.
nutrients, properties, detoxifying properties. However, even from the organic commercial plants, just like you said, you can't exactly trust what's going on top of them, what they spray the plant in. And yes, you de-pesticide the plant in the sink, soaking it with whatever, but is it 100% clean? We
Yeah.
don't know. So the extra step with detox, I think, is what helps. And I mean, I've found to be very effective with my health. And I don't know anybody who detoxes regularly who would deny that.
Yeah. No, it's funny because I wasn't raised to detox, but my husband, his mother being a nurse, she would detox him all the time. She would do the coffee enema.
Mhm.
And when he told me about it, I'm like, what? what is that? Like, I
It's
had never
amazing.
known anything about it. And then I haven't tried the coffee enema, but I bought something that I was able to, do an enema detox. I guess that's what you call it. And, I felt different after like a 24 hours. I could start feeling the difference in my gut and everything. And I was like, interesting, but when you're not raised knowing those things, it's kind of weird because I'm like, shoot, I have never in my life detox. No wonder my body with the inflammation, with my psoriasis, my mental health, even I'm 46. So imagine the premenopause for us women. It hit me so bad, so bad because I wasn't taught any different. I wasn't taught to take care of myself. Nobody told me that I needed to do certain things before I went into my premenopause stages and all that. So it affected my health. So, I'm glad that
That's
you
right.
put all that research into the book because I did read about the detox part and all that. And then, the cleansing of the vegetables and the fruits and all that stuff. And, just so many different things that you think about. If you're not raised that way or if you didn't go to school for it, because they don't teach us these things in school either, then you don't know how to take care of your health. And it's important. It's really, really important.
Vitally important. Yes, that's right. That's
So,
right. It's ironic because I wasn't raised that way either, of course, just like you
yeah.
say. But it was funny because when we decided to go vegan, like 3 days before the date of our going vegan, that meant when all the other products in the fridge were eaten, it was time to grocery store and shop, and then that's
Mm-hmm.
gonna be all plant-based. Because my boyfriend stopped animal products culture. He wasn't like
Yeah.
me. No red meat and poultry for 17 years before he became vegan. Because he had health problems, he said, hell with it. I'm starting plant-based. But 3 days before I did that wonderful plant-only grocery shopping, we saw this amazing presentation by a person who had been using detoxing methods, and we decided to do it too. And actually, the day we started vegan was the day that we started detoxing too. So it was
Yeah.
two huge changes in one day, and I think that's the best way to do it sometimes because implementing changes gradually can really deviate from your discipline path. But if you do it and just say that's it, for me
That's
at least,
it.
that
Yeah.
works much better because I
You
abandoned the
talk.
old habit. And
Yeah. You talked about a video on Netflix, and I forgot the name. It's what is it? What the health or something like that.
so,
I
what
think
the
I
health is
watched
a
that video.
documentary. It's on YouTube. Okay, so
Yeah,
you
it's on
find it
YouTube.
free on
Okay.
YouTube. But Forks Over Knives was on Netflix. I mean, sometimes
Yeah,
they moved it
I
to
saw that
different
one.
rental movie platforms, but you can always get a DVD, if you have to. But because it's worth watching it more than once. And even me, with my knowledge of anatomy, physiology, pathophysiology,
Mm-hmm.
I gladly watch these documentaries 3 times because there's so much information. If I want to present it to patients, it makes sense for their particular health condition. I
Mm-hmm.
just want to be prepared and
Yeah.
sound like I know what I'm talking about. And it works, though. It works because, like I said, I've done it for 7 years. Okay, it's not been like a spurt of inspiration, 2, 3 months, 7 years. That's a long time, and
Yeah.
it's been truly amazing.
No, that's awesome. I know we've gone almost 6 years since we started the vegan. Then we kind of like did that for almost a year. Then we fell off of it, and then we kind of got back into it, and then fall back out. And this time around, I'm like, he went and did the grocery shopping, and then he bought organic chicken, and I'm like, why did you buy organic chicken? I'm like, I thought we were just gonna do the vegan thing, and he was like, oh, it says organic. I'm like, yeah,
Doesn't matter.
but
It's not vegan.
doesn't matter. It's still, I want to try to really be consistent about this because I could feel my gut is not the healthiest right now. And, yes, I do a lot of healing, I do a lot of natural stuff, but if your gut is not healthy, then that affects even your mental health. It affects everything. So I just grabbed the chicken, put it in the freezer, and I said, leave it there. I'm not even gonna touch it.
Give it to somebody you hate so they can die sooner.
My God, no, I wouldn't do that. But I'll just return it back to the to the grocery store.
I'm joking, but truthfully,
I
it's
know,
just
I know,
that unhealthy. It doesn't make sense.
I know,
Hmm.
I know. It really doesn't. You're right about that. Now, how did you incorporate holistic practices into your nursing career, and what impact have you seen on your patients?
That is very much on an individual basis if they're willing to listen and learn, because many people just swear by the way they were raised. And
Mm,
many patients surprisingly listen quite a bit because they're sick of being sick. They're to the point where they realize they're barely functioning, and then they ask me, how do you have all this muscle mass? Like, what do you do at the gym? And I say, well, 100 pull-ups per gym session, and 5-mile run and all that stuff. So how do you do this? I well, it's diet, and I told them about holistic health, dieting, exercise, detox, and of course, from the first session, they won't buy the detox part very much because that goes very deep into their minds. And like, oh, that's overwhelming. But as far as dieting, we start going through examples. When they let me look through their fridge and pantry, because I'm a home care nurse and I have access to their whole house, right?
Nice.
And we say, okay, so this is very unhealthy because of this, this, and this, and this. That's what it does. And when they listen and they change their ways, they really see dramatic improvement. But again, it's about the healthcare professional being able to deliver on that message through personal example when they see that you're really healthy. Because if you're a professional who preaches that stuff but doesn't do it, and they always ask me, well, that's a very big change. Are you vegan? I said, absolutely, I'm vegan. I will never tell you to do something that I'm not doing myself because you wouldn't trust me. And they say, yeah, that's true, because many times a doctor, they say, tells me to stop eating this and this and this, but they're doing it. And I see they're unhealthy and I don't trust them. I don't trust their intentions, right? So they go through the motions of saying the healthy stuff to the patient, but they don't live by it. And we absolutely need to regain the trust of the patients, because they have really lost tremendous amount of faith in the healthcare system because of the commercial aspect and the commoditizing of the diseases. And many people are starting to wake up towards that. The problem is that they don't trust themselves, their own ability to regain their health. And that's where I really try to, they don't believe in themselves, in their own ability to regain their health. And I tell them, look, it's really not about the system. It's really about you, how you deal with what you know and how you integrate that knowledge into your daily life, because you can blame the system all you want. The system isn't this. That's all there is to it. But if people stop buying the unhealthy food, they stop purchasing stuff that makes them sick, that's the best way to boycott this industry that is making you sick to make profit. And it didn't start as an intentional thing, but surely when they saw how profitable it was, they didn't stop it. They didn't discontinue their practices. On the other hand, they doubled and tripled and produced these unhealthy products for people to eat. And as soon as the patients realize how really in control they can be, because first they feel they have no control because of the system, but actually you do have much more control than you think if you hold yourself accountable. And when they accept that, they make excellent progress. If they choose to keep blaming the system and their relatives and their time and their lives, then they don't.
It's take accountability, and it's about accountability, and it boils down to confidence level. Where's your confidence level? Where is your accountability and the things, and it goes into everything. It goes into relationships. It goes into if you're going through something in your life and you're going to blame whoever else for something instead of you're taking responsibility for your own stuff, your own shit, I call it, then you'll start seeing the changes in your life. But if you're always going outside of yourself and blaming everybody else and saying, oh, I'm going through this, or I'm unhealthy because of this, and it's this, the programming or society, or no, that's fine and dandy, but you don't have to live there. You can literally take that accountability, that responsibility in everything, mental health and eating and everything, and just say, okay, what can I do? What can I do to change my life, to change my health, and to be more confident? Because confidence is huge. It's huge. I had zero confidence for a few years, and I don't even know how I ran my business. I think I was confident in the business level, but I wasn't confident in, like, for myself, like as a woman or in relationship or with other people. It was more like my job was what I thought gave me my confidence, my business, and it's not. It's inside of you. It's something very internal, very spiritual.
That is true. That is true. And you can draw, if the career is that gives you the confidence, then you can draw from the career and ask yourself, what is it that you do so well in the career that makes you confident, and do it just as well in the other areas of your life? That is a way to, or we can always draw from one area that you're confident and spread it into the other areas. See, the issue is people focus on one area of their life that they think is the most problematic, and usually it's not. Usually it's something else that is way more problematic that when they choose to focus on, but they don't want to face the bigger problem. And that's where holistic coaching comes handy, because we look at all the areas, and say, okay, so what is going on with your relationship right now? You're focusing on your finances, but what really, and we start digging in and we find a much bigger problem elsewhere. And
Yeah.
then the
It's
person,
usually
when
inside of
they
you
understand,
internally.
they
Yeah.
have to fix that alongside with the problem that they chose to hire me for, to coach them. And it's not just that. It's so much more going on in a life. That's where, yeah, because you can teach groups of people, but everybody has different problems. And with groups of people, it's a much more lucrative business, but it
Uh-huh.
won't help as much as individual coaching, in my experience, when you address
True
the
that.
people by their problems. Otherwise, it's not a complete approach. And like you said, with your career, you were very confident with your career, but the relationship wasn't, or something else wasn't confident. Were you
Yeah.
able to draw from your career and business confidence into the
Mhm.
other areas of your life? Because it's the same exact mental process that you can apply to the other areas
Right.
that you
See,
apply in
for
your business. You're
me,
so successful and confident, you can spread that mindset into the other areas and then fix what needs to be fixed, because you're smart. You can see, you
right.
know what's wrong. Most of the time, people have the answers. They just
Yeah.
try
No,
not
no.
to.
That is true. And it's crazy because what what allowed me to open up the business back in 2021 was we had a near car accident, like a near death experience with a car accident in Florida. Our car flipped and everything. We lost our dog in the accident. My husband had he had neck surgery and 27 staples, and nothing happened to me at all. But I had the trauma of
Mhm.
losing our dog, of taking care of him, of never taking care of myself. And then I remember waking up, that was October 31st of 2020. And I remember waking up in January and saying, I want to open up a business. I have no idea what I'm going to do. We have no money, but we're going to do something. And it's funny because I was at that time, I was listening to Grant Cardone, 10X guy, and he was talking about real estate and how you don't need money and you could do this and you could do that. And I just took that and ran with it, but I didn't realize that at that time I was so focused on building the business and making this money and all this stuff that I didn't realize that my mental health was getting worse and worse and worse. You know what I mean? Because of that trauma, from our losing our dog and almost, dying and all this stuff. And then a year and a half later, I'm a workaholic by nature. I would work 7 days a week. My relationship with my husband was horrible. There was just so much going on that I really I couldn't mentally. I couldn't grab whatever was giving me the confidence for, in my business, and to put it in my health, to put it in my mental health and everything else. It was the business, and that's all I could do. That's all the energy I ever had until I didn't have any more energy.
So
And then it
you
affected
were using it
everything.
as an escape. You were using it as an
Yes,
escape from the other
yes.
problems, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that had, yeah,
Yes.
I understand. I understand. That's
Yeah.
understandable for what you were going through.
Yeah. 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 And it's crazy because I tell my husband, I said, if I was able to create all that while I was not okay, imagine now that I'm a lot healthier, everything that we can create in a healthier state. You know what I mean? And yeah, it was my getaway. I mean, I acknowledge that. I know that now. I didn't know that back then because sometimes
There's
when
nothing
you're
wrong
going
with
through
that.
something,
There's
you don't
nothing
know.
wrong with that. It was a starting point. It was a great
It was a
starting point.
starting point. It was. It was. Cool. I like our conversation so far. There's a lot of great points here. Now, what is your philosophy on nutrition and what role does it play in the holistic health?
Tremendous role, of course. You want to eat foods that are unassociated with profitable chronic diseases.
Mm-hmm.
And there are tons of fad diets out there, including the keto diet. Sorry, but no,
Oh, yeah.
because they're depriving themselves of truly essential nutrients, grains, and because I've seen several of their schemes, and it's like, you gotta be kidding me, right? And they're promoting these animal products that are still not healthy for the heart, again, and type 2 diabetes and all that stuff. And I know
Right.
some people have good results with them, but ultimately for me, nutrition-wise, from organic soil and doesn't have a mommy and a daddy. That's the nutrition that is not associated with chronic diseases on any level. And it's funny that you asked that question, because I was asked by somebody who had 3 chronic diseases, still has them,
Mm-hmm.
takes pharmaceutical drugs, absolutely refuses to go plant-based because he says that or everything in moderation, this, and this. I mean, gives me a big lecture, knows everything. He has 3
I
chronic
hear that a lot,
diseases.
the
He has been
moderation
nursing
thing.
for 10 years, but he knows everything. He knows everything, right? And he has an abdomen, more than a 9-month pregnancy, like more than like 12-month pregnancy abdomen in front of him, but he
Oh
knows
my God.
everything about health. Yes, and lots of people like that. But what I was starting to tell to you about the how I integrate the nutrition, he asked me, well, with your vegan patients, this and that. I said, no, I don't have any vegan patients. We rarely become patient. And that was eye-opening for him.
Right.
Now that he has changed his habits up to that point, he's a friend back in Bulgaria, but the patients I have been a nurse since 2011, so 13 years. I've yet to have a whole food organic vegan patient. Unless they get into a car accident,
Right.
um, I'm not going to see anytime soon a whole food organic vegan as a patient. And that speaks volumes
Yeah.
about the role of nutrition and quality fuel to your body into the holistic health.
That is so true. And I'm sure
It's
after your
simple as that. I can't
that
put
is
it any
so
more
true.
simply.
And it's funny because you have these patients and the ones that are willing to change their diet, I'm sure you've seen a tremendous change in their health, right?
You do.
You gotta be willing to. Yeah.
It's very rewarding, and you see them years later. If they have persevered with the diet, they still look amazing. Otherwise, they're back to where they were, or almost to where I started with them. But
Right.
it's a constant struggle for everybody in many cases to. Yeah, and I just don't know why though, because once you see the benefit of something, I mean, I grasp on it like a dog on a bone. And then the other thing is the regrets that you might have is don't do it. And I also see that perspective. But I mean, education is important because when you know pathophysiology of disease, when you know pathology, I mean, the body, anatomy, physiology, you visualize what all of these food products are doing or not doing for your body or to your body. It's made it easier for me, but that's where I still don't have an answer as to why so many healthcare professionals refuse to think that way and really help themselves and do themselves a huge favor by not mutilating their bodies with their horrible diets and other lifestyle habits every day. And I don't have an answer to that question. It bothers
You
me a
know,
lot, and it always has bothered me.
no, I get it. And this is in my perspective, what I think could happen in a lot of like these doctors and nurses is they spend so many years studying, so many years of investing so much money in their education. And then who the heck are we to come in and say, well, you're not healthy, you're not, you don't understand nutrition, because they can fix it. And I've seen that. I've seen that in some doctors and some nurses that they're like, what? No, I'm the doctor here, kind of like, type of attitude. And I'm like, but, in my mind, I'm thinking, then why are you not healthy? Why are you, like overweight or have chronic diseases as well? And then it's like I don't get it. It's just, to me, I think they're holding on to that idea of I'm the doctor, I spent so many years studying, and all the money that I paid, or I'm still paying these student loans. And I think that's what it can be, one perspective. I don't know.
And you have every darn right to ask your doctor, if you're such an expert, why don't you have control over your own health? Why do you have 50 pounds on your body that you can shape? And why do you look like you have not done a single athletic thing in your entire life? You have every
Mhm.
right to ask that of the doctor because it is your insurance that pays him for his services. And you can tell the doctor you're not leading by personal example, and you can yell at me all you want and be offended,
Yeah.
but I'm not blind. I see you. What I'm seeing hanging from your waistline is not muscle. It's something different. And you
Yeah.
can say these things. You're the patient.
Oh
You
yeah.
are the patient. And don't, if you get yelled at, you need to change the doctor. That's
Oh
all there
yeah.
is to it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's funny
And
because my husband and I, like, we don't, this is another thing, but we don't believe in health insurance. We haven't needed it. Thank God that here in the mountains, I have my doctor, my nurse practitioner. She's amazing. And we just go, and based on what our income is, we pay our visit. And it's a lot less expensive than if you have insurance, and just an insurance policy from my
Well,
phone
but if you get into
is
an accident,
$650.
if you get into an accident, then you really need it. I mean, that's the only reason why I have insurance
Well,
basically, because
it's funny because when we did get into that accident, Geico paid everything. It
not
paid
about your
everything.
health though, your health bills also.
Yeah, it paid everything. They paid the surgery. They paid everything.
Hmm.
And I was like,
I didn't know that.
I was amazed by that. Yeah, but those are the things that they don't tell us. I thought that the car accident only pays if, if the other person is injured only, or if, the car needs to get fixed or replaced. No, they actually paid for all his medical bills. We had to fight like a little bit on certain things,
Mhm.
but we ended up, it was
Sure.
a little over $100,000 completely paid.
That's
It's
very, very
scary.
scary. That's the only reason why, people would no risk other health risks. I mean, it's just what happens to you
Yeah,
outside of your responsibility zone, right? Because there are lots of irresponsible people around us.
there
To
is. There
sustain an
is.
injury or
And you know
some
what?
sort.
I'd rather put money on the side for medical expenses because just for myself alone, 4 years ago, it was like $500 for a very simple policy. And I was
Mhm.
like, that's crazy. $500 a month? And I don't
It's
even really go to
outrageous.
the doctor. It's
It's outrageous.
outrageous. It's crazy. It's not what it used to be. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I'd rather put the money away. You know what I mean? In case of an emergency. Why am I going to keep feeding these insurance companies? That's another podcast, but why am I going
It's
to
that
keep feeding
podcast,
these
yeah.
insurance companies?
Whole
When
podcast.
yeah, a whole podcast. I don't have to. I don't have to do that. Car insurance, that's a different story. We need that because, you're
Yeah.
driving with a whole bunch of people that you don't know. But yeah, and the health side, I'm not putting my money there. But anyway, that will be another podcast for another day. In your experience, what are the most common misconceptions about holistic health? And I know we talked a little bit about it, but if you want to emphasize on certain points on that.
Well, the most common misconception about holistic health is that you can still eat food that causes chronic disease. I mean, depending who is teaching it. And then the whole pushing of supplements and retreats and whatnot, and spas. It's just a very different understanding for every person that practices or teaches holistic health. So I really think the simpler you keep it, the better it is. And holistic health, again, it does not only involve your physical, mental, and emotional health. All the other aspects of your life are also part of your holistic health. Because
Yeah.
again, if you're struggling financially, I mean, you can always buy healthy food cheap, like lentils, rice, beans. You know how these things
Yeah.
expand threefold when you cook them. It's the cheapest stuff, even organic. But the anxiety that comes with lacking in certain resources in your life can affect your emotions and your body. So holistic health really, it's not only nutrition, detox, or exercise. And
It's
in many
everything.
people, they talk mostly about the nutrition aspect and they teach it wrong because again, they'll say that it's okay to eat certain products that really are not at all healthy for you. So why eat them in the first place? And they call themselves holistic healers, right? So it
Mm,
is a very sticky area, very
okay.
difficult to encompass in this conversation that we have. But
Yeah,
it's because everybody understands holistic differently. You have to explain to them the risks with their understanding if they see any, if you see any, but also you have to respect their decision and their right to define
that's true.
holistic in their way if it clashes with
Yeah.
your understanding. So that I think that's the biggest, misconception that we can make it all fit one size. But
Mhm.
the best thing is to really educate what certain things do to your body, mind, emotions, and everything else in your life. And then
That's
you're
true.
on your own because, again,
Mm,
teaching of holistic, everybody has a different background, and I've encountered as many different information sources and convictions and systems as I have read holistic authors or heard holistic
right.
speakers, you know,
Mm,
and so it can be confusing. That's one of the misconceptions. It's just not one thing. It's a ton of variances, and
yeah,
which explains why some people decide to follow the hospital protocols, the healthcare system protocols, because it's too complex to venture into this other area that is not even, they say, oh, scientifically proven. Well, why not? Because it won't bring profits to the system, so that's why they don't do research on it, or
exactly.
they don't acknowledge that research exists tens of thousands of pages exist over the last 20, 30 years. They just don't really advertise it because they don't necessarily care for you to know it. And the
No,
misconception is that you can just easily find that resource without much digging. Actually, sometimes you have to dig and you have to put the time and effort to find good resources for holistic health practices, because not everything is valuable and worthy of your attention.
no.
And some things can harm you if you don't do them wrong or are practiced by the wrong person. So yeah,
Mm.
there's tons of misconceptions, not just one. But I can
Yeah,
see why many people are more rational thinking and want the data can be skeptical. It's just because they haven't been fully given the opportunity to access this whole research and understand it exists, but
that
it's
is
just
true.
not readily available. You have to look for it and in different places and find it.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a lot of work, a lot of research. I mean, I'm so grateful for you that you took the time to really dive deep into all this and tap into all the different
Of course,
resources and to really do all that because it shows your passion, your love, your conviction for health, for people to be healthier, to live longer, to have a better life. And one of the things that I've just recently learned is that everything in life is spiritual. Everything you do, it doesn't matter if it's finances, health, everything is spiritual. So again, when you are on a holistic journey, it's an individual thing. It's always individual because everybody is different. It's like when you're on your spiritual journey, those spiritual journeys are also individual. Everybody goes through their own different ups and downs and different things. And it's the same. It's the same with health, and you got to do research and you got to see, oh, what is real and what is not, what is going to be good
that's
for you,
right.
what is not going to be good for you. So everything's spiritual and it's just an individual thing. And hopefully, with the work you've done and this book and the podcast and everything that we're doing for humanity, hopefully we could bring in this information so people can really say, you know what, I want to go this route because it is better, and my son is one of those that he just the other day cooked this big old pork and I'm just like, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that looks good. That looks great. And it's like, I don't want to get into it with him because we just came out of something very sensitive, so I'm kind of like, I have to allow him to have his own experiences and go through his own unhealthy moments because he was always the healthiest kid. I mean, super fit. This kid did MMA. I mean, all kinds of sports. And then after his second child and his mental health after 7 years in the Navy and the military and everything he's gone through, he gained weight, not excessively, but, he's a very strong kid, but he's got a little bit of extra pounds on him. And I'm like, honey, that's not healthy. And then finally, he said to me a few days ago, he's like, Mom, I really think I need to start taking care of my health. And I said, well, yes, number one for you. And number two, because you are a single dad, your first daughter, he's got two daughters. I said, your first
Wow,
daughter's mom, she's dead. She's gone. So you're doing
that's
all this on
horrible.
your own and the girls need you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
I think he's starting to understand a little more. And because he was always a healthy kid, I think he's going to go back into really, doing the things he needs to do to take care of himself because it's important. And
That's
I know he
great.
saw
That's
me.
great.
He saw me what I went through. So
Great.
hopefully, he'll tap into, your book and stuff like that. Because I'll just maybe when I go visit him, he lives in Jacksonville, Florida. When I go
Mhm.
visit him, I'll just drop it on his counter and have him read that. But you can't force anybody. It's their own individual journeys, right?
And grieving can make you lose a lot of motivation and let
Yeah.
things slip because you lose sense of why you're doing all this, making all this effort. If there is a person that you really wanted to share it with is gone, it's very different mindset that sets in you, and how fast you overcome that. Again, is quite individual and depending, but it's great that he has thought of reversing the bad habit. And I'm very sorry for his loss and your loss. That's a
Yeah,
whole
that was
different.
actually yeah, that was a hard one because that happened literally our accident was October 31st of 2020 and she passed away December, I think it was December 17th of that same year. So, it was a lot for him and
A lot for him,
it's been
of course,
yeah,
and the
it's
children.
been a lot. Oh, in the military, all the things that you
Hmm.
endure in the military that we don't know. That didn't help. I mean, it was causing him to bleed, you know, through certain areas that it was not a good thing. And it hasn't happened anymore, thank God. I think he's done some stuff to reverse that, but I think he's realizing that he needs to take care of his health, both mental and physical.
The sooner the better, of course, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. So, how do you stay motivated to maintain your health practices, especially during challenging times?
There is absolutely no option for me to become a victim of the healthcare system.
What
No
gave you that
option.
conviction? Because, it's hard for people to really
What I
say,
see what it
okay,
does
I'm going
to
to do
people
this.
through my patients. I mean, I learned tremendously from my patients, even more than what I learned in nursing school. But you need to
Wow.
use your experience to your own benefit and apply it to the best you can. So, especially during challenging times, I get twice as motivated to stay healthy because I'm very stubborn. So, the more challenging it gets, the more I insist on my healthy habit just to show it that I can do it, and it doesn't gonna destroy me in any way. My boyfriend says I'm indestructible. It's Bulgarian, but no, it's not that. It's just that I really am so grateful to that habit, to the way it
Yeah.
was done for me, that I will not abandon it during challenging times. And there have been always challenging times. COVID was a
Yeah.
challenging time. The
Well, yeah. I
lockdowns,
mean,
everything was
COVID was the
challenging time.
worst
We never deviated from our
at all.
health ethics. Absolutely not. Because
Wow.
the more challenging it gets, the more I insist on what I know it's the best for me. Because these outside factors are not going to change the way I think about my health. Okay, and I'll fight tooth and nail if I have to.
I love it.
Do it. Yeah, I've been asked all sorts of questions, like the question, what would you do if your situation is so bad that you're stuck in an island that there's only animals? I had a question like that before, believe it or not. I said, if there are animals on that island, there are going to be plants, and the plants are there way before the animals, they're not going to be just animals on the island. So, I mean, that's the challenging times. What does that mean? You can have 5 challenges in a day. Are you going to indulge stressfully to eating horrible stuff and compromising your health, skip your fitness routine just because you're stressed out? No, go exactly to it, because that's what's keeping you going into life and confident and in control of your life. I mean, if you lose control of your health, nothing else matters. Just like you said at the beginning of the conversation.
And how do you, like, for instance, there are people that have like a compulsive attitude. Like, let's say, they go through something stressful and then they become very compulsive, and then they go, like you said, to the refrigerator and they want to eat all kinds of stuff. And I know, like, I have been and still am working on being a little compulsive towards certain things. So what I did, knowing me being a little compulsive, is that I said, okay, nothing unhealthy, just have healthy stuff in the house. So if I want to go and have a few little treats later on, I could, dive into like pineapple or apples or whatever. You know what I
You
mean?
can eat those at any point in time. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So you
You
can
can
still
even
be
eat by the
compulsive.
kilogram. You can eat those. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But as far as the compulsive behavior, the people who can't resist their compulsions, I don't think they have resolved the questions to what personal integrity means to them. Because that's the main question. That once you answer that question very well, if you have a good answer, you will not indulge compulsions. Because you will have built self-respect to know better and to stop yourself and not even entertain the thought about spoiling yourself with a
Where do
nasty.
you think compulsion comes from? Because I think that also it could be something mentally, like something that maybe a trauma,
Very
it could
much
even
so.
be from childhood or something, right?
Very much so. It's just some kind of compulsive seek for an excuse to do something bad just so you can feel in control, that you can do something that you want to do when everything else in your life is going against the ways you want it to go.
It's that
I
egoic
think
mind.
that's what a compulsion is, but you're not doing yourself any favors, and the sooner you realize that, the better you will be off. Will be, and again, it's not just about the health; it's everything else. Everything else. Some people compulsively eat horrible stuff. Others spend on go to this spending spree, shopping
Oh,
spree of
yeah.
things that they absolutely don't need, but they want to
Yeah,
keep that compulsion and they're in control when everything else is going awry. And well, fix what's wrong. Don't
yeah,
spoil what you already have done well. If you have been doing it well, don't ruin that in addition to
right.
everything else that's going on wrong with your life. Focus on the problem. Don't uh, don't spoil the solution that you already have had. That's what I would say to such people, because it becomes a wicked circle. And then once you compromise so bad, you really start hating yourself in a very nasty internal way. That you
That's
say, okay,
true.
so because you know you have compromised your integrity, you don't verbalize it, but you know it because you're not that
Yeah,
stupid,
yeah,
right? And
Yeah.
it stays that you made this bad exception, then the next day you do it again and again,
And
and
again and
it's
again.
going to repeat. It goes to 23rd exception. So that's why you don't make an exception in the first place, ever, um, because integrity is what really is the way of life if you care about your integrity. But again,
You know,
people,
no,
you
I
gotta
agree.
know what
Yeah.
exactly it means to you, because everybody is different, and somebody will tell me something. And when I ask them, okay, so what about your integrity? I'll say, well, what about it? I never thought about it. I've
They
never
never
thought
think
about,
about it.
you know, in relation to your habits that you want to slip in your daily life just because. No, because you're not
Well, no, you
convinced
you
in your.
don't think about it. You really don't, because me
Mhm.
myself, that was the last thing in my mind. Like integrity, really? Like, did that have something to really do with it? And now that you're saying it, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, it does. It really,
Well,
really
it took me
does.
forever to learn it too, because I had all sorts
Yeah,
of bad mental habits. And
yeah,
eventually you're like, oh, so why are you doing so well with this? And you suck at that. Because it's the
yeah,
mindset. You have to apply the same mindset from this area and transfer it into the other area, and things will change. And indeed they do. Indeed they
yeah.
do. So the
They
more
do.
you start caring about every aspect of your life, the better you'll be able to integrate that integrity mindset. So, pun
Mm-hmm.
unintended, right? But it
No,
just
no,
works
yeah.
across the board. And when you connect to the dots in your life in that way, then you
You do
become
talk
whole.
about that in your book. Yeah, you talk about that in your book. I did see that. And, I do appreciate that, because I think there's always something that in your journey you're missing. And then you read something and you're like, oh, and now we're having this conversation. And you
Yeah.
talked about integrity. And I think that hit the point for me of that was what I was missing, is that integrity. Not that I never had it, did, but being that I got sick mentally, lost my memory, so many things, and I've been reprogramming myself to
That is
be
a lot to go
someone
through. I
different.
mean,
It's
you've
a
done
lot.
amazing. You've done
Thank you.
amazing. That's a
Thank
lot
you.
to go through. I can't even begin to imagine what you've been through. But you
Yeah.
realize, personal integrity, that's basically pride of ownership of your decisions. And
Uh,
when you're proud of your decisions, you own them, and then that keeps the integrity going, and it becomes unstoppable, like unbreakable. I mean, you've done really amazing, and I commend you for that, because I know people
thank
like you,
you.
and they haven't done nearly as well, because I don't think they got properly motivated to trust themselves and their
Yeah.
abilities to reverse that horrible process. And you
Well,
did
I'll
really,
tell you something.
it's
For
remarkable.
me, yeah. Well, for me, what it was for me, it was either commit to getting healthy or I'm gonna die.
There's
That
no
was
way in
where
between.
I was. Yeah, there was
Yeah.
nothing in between. It was like I just want to die, because I don't want to be in this world anymore. Life freaking sucks. Every time I look around, there's this and that, and everything's so negative and so crazy, because that was the space that I was in, especially after my grandmother died. But it's like, okay, if I love life. I don't want to die. What do I do? So I made a commitment. Last year, at the beginning of last year, I told my husband I'm taking 2023 and I'm going to focus on my health. I'm not going to work. I'm not going to do nothing. It's just my health. If I don't get myself healthy, I can't do anything else. And then by April of last year, I met someone that brought in some organic patches that activate your own stem cells, and they're made out of organic crystals. They're called X39, and they have so many other patches for different things. And I am not kidding you, Alexandra. I put on the patch. I felt the energy of it, and in 3 days, it took my vertigo away
That's
completely to this
fantastic. I'm
day.
not familiar with any of these products. I've heard about some of them, but I mean, if it
Yeah,
works,
I never heard of it either, but it's funny because I'm sitting in a restaurant and I see a gentleman, like, trying to get my attention. And, the universe works in really mysterious ways. Sometimes they'll bring people that you need for whatever it is that you're going through. And I was listening, I started to listen to my spirit guides and stuff like that. I've been on a very, very very strong spiritual journey, very committed to that. And he said, why don't you try this product? It's not going to harm you. It's non-invasive, non-transdermal. It's just organic crystals. You put on the patch and they activate your own light and your stem cells start activating so your body can start working the way they need to. Because by the time you're 35 years old, you lose 50% of your stem cells already. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
I was like, wow, I had no idea about that. So in 3 days, it took my vertigo away. And then, week by week, I started feeling like less inflammation in my body. I started feeling more mental clarity. My tinnitus started going away. I started regaining my memory. And then within 6 months, I started feeling so much better. Like it was like, oh my God, I'm back to life. And then this was what needed to like really activate, because my mental health is what was killing me. And I love those patches. I don't need to really use them as much anymore. Only every once in a while, if I feel a little inflammation or something, I'll put on the Eon patch, and that will help with any pains or anything like that. It'll take a few hours, but it actually helps that. And then there's other patches that help with detoxifying, like glutathione.
Mhm.
It helps to detoxify your body too. So, this was a product that I believe that Universe Source, whatever you call it, brought that into my life because they knew I needed that in that moment. And then it was up to me to make the decision to keep on my health journey. And
That's
here I
excellent.
am a little over a year later. And shit, when you commit to something and you really do the work, and it's a lot of work because it's not just the mental health, it's the shadow work.
So you have to focus. You got to be completely focused to your commitment. That's
You have
focusing to
to.
your commitment. That's exactly how it works. You've done
Oh,
great. You've done really, really great.
thank you. And it was the
Yeah.
it was the fear of dying. I didn't want to die. I was like, I don't want to die. I want to live. I got so
Mhm.
much to do in this world. If I didn't die in that car accident, you know what I mean? That I wasn't even wearing a seatbelt. My door open. I was not even injected out of the car. Like I literally, like nothing happened to me. I'm like, there's a bigger purpose that God has for me in this world. And I will be stupid, dumb to really say, I don't care. I was given another chance of life. So in that sense, I'm very committed to my health in that sense. Yeah.
Congratulations. That's wonderful. Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Can you share a success story from someone who has applied the principles from your book? Any experiences, anything that you've seen that you've been able to yourself see for yourself from other people that you work with?
Yeah, there was somebody who actually wanted to start investing to enhance their financial freedom when they, went to that investment portion of the book, and now they're on the way to get their second investment property.
Oh,
And they
wow.
did have to fix some aspects of their health because they realized a lot of physical work can be involved when you're a beginning investor, and they wanted to be
Oh,
able to
yeah.
endure the physical work, and so they got motivated to fix their health too, although they approached because of the financial aspect, to be completely
Mm,
honest. But
yeah.
I looked into their, of course, health and nutrition and all that. And I said, if you want to do this with so little money, you have to perform such and such physical work on these properties to save yourself money from
Yeah.
painting, yeah. And they got the point because I told
Mm,
them how I used to restore my properties when I first bought property. I was painting from 7 in the morning to 7 in the evening for a 15-minute break to eat 2 apples. Okay.
oh,
So they
yeah.
didn't like to share that. So, well, but you have to have the endurance to do that in the
Yeah.
first place before you go into that project. So how do you do that? Well, here's how you do that. Oh, plant-based that. Well, no, really, trust me, it increases energy tenfold when you go plant-based. So he actually took it seriously and
Mm,
eliminated most of the animal products. I think he left a little bit of eggs here and there. And I eventually kept advocating for him to ditch the eggs too, because they are cholesterol bombs. And for some
yeah.
period of time, he did it. You know how it's hard for people to stay on the regimen sometimes, but
Yeah.
he
I
appreciated
know.
that. And like I said, financially speaking, he had a way to purchase his second investment probably like great. So because
That's
I give a
awesome.
year access as a resource line after the 12-month course, the coaching program. Then
Okay.
the students can approach me for a year and ask questions, and then I drill them, of course. What did you do about this? What did you do about this commitment that we were talking about, for 12 week during
Mm,
12-week program? And many of them have accomplished a lot, and those who call me back over the year, I know they're working on their. If they don't call me back, I have no idea. And I imagine they probably left it where we left it. But if you call me
exactly.
back with questions, I know that then I can keep kicking your butt to push yourself more and not give me these excuses. We review multiple times the difference between an argument and an excuse. And we don't do excuses, we only do arguments. And then there is no need for arguments because, obviously, when you eliminate the excuses, there are very few arguments left. So but
Mm,
that's how it works. I mean, when people apply themselves, and some of them truly want to know that somebody cares, and that's
yeah.
where the guidance comes. And I'm telling you, like 95% of people already know the answers. They really do know the answers. Um, some lack practical knowledge, but
Right.
once you give them the knowledge and it clicks, and they say, "Oh, okay, so that's what it was. Yeah, yeah, I can do that. I can." So, will you do that? Is the question.
Yeah.
When are you starting? They say, well, when should I start? Well, now you start now. We're talking right now, so you start right now. It's worked for quite a few people. But see, I don't want people to come to my coaching
Right.
before they read the book, because the book itself was supposed to be the coaching thing. The coaching business came
Right.
after the book. The book was not advertisement for my business. It didn't work that way. The purpose was to get the book, uh, show people how many ways there are to do things awesomely. And then people said, why don't you have a coaching business? Because I have the book. Well, yeah, but some people will need the coaching. So if they read the book that costs $6.99 ebook and, under $20 the paperback, they shouldn't need my coach. And it
Right.
really works that way many times. Now, if they buy the
Uh,
coaching program without having read the book, I send it complimentary. But I say, look, just apply these principles. You don't need expensive coaching to get better in your life, because I did
that's
coaching. I took coaching for my real estate investing. I had no clue about real estate, and I bought
right.
mentorship. It was not cheap at all, and it was the best money ever spent. So mentors are great, but
Yeah.
try first to do as much as you can with books, because that's the most inexpensive. If you're first starting on a great journey, you probably don't have too much money. So you need to
Yeah.
be very smart and really responsible. Now, the problem, of course, is that very few people are properly motivated to take action based on free information. That's the issue with many people, and that's where coaching
Yeah.
comes into play. But if you're the type of person that can learn and do a lot from books, do that first, and let's chat. Now, I give people 1 to 3 hour free first coaching session to see if we're a good fit for each other, but I don't charge them the first session. And if they
That's
want to
beautiful.
walk away, that's fine. Or I can fire them on the spot, because when I detect too many excuses in the conversation, I can tell that this is not going to work. I say, look,
They're
we're
not
not good
ready.
for each other, because you're going to argue with me every step of the way. You can do this with the TV. You don't need me. You don't need to spend the money on me to argue with me, because my time is just as valuable, but so is yours, and I appreciate your free time.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it's really not, I don't need clients. This is why I didn't write the book to advertise a business. It was the other way around.
Yeah.
Most of the coaches write their books to advertise their business, and they put very little information in the book so they can suck into the business. That was
Exactly.
never the intention of my project. So uh, I feel
And that
pretty
I love
good
that. I
about.
love that about your book. Yeah, I did sense that in your book because you were so detailed.
Mhm.
And you're right. A lot of coaches, a lot of people just give you little bits, so then you have to come in and ask them for, different advice, different things, or different guidance. And your book is just the complete guide. It has everything. If you really want to change your health, change your life, change your finances, change it all, guys, seriously, tap into her book. She put a lot of time and research and love into this. And I would honestly say, get the book. Get the book before you even want to do any coaching because, I mean, the coaching is right there either way, right? That's why you
Yeah,
did it.
but plus
Yeah.
you will see if I'm the good coach for you, because the book pretty much reveals my personality very extensively. That's where we had
Oh,
some
yeah.
arguments with the editor, because, he said my language was very abrasive at times. And I said, this is not going to be
Yeah.
another sugar-coated confidence book.
Nah.
This is going to be what it is, because it's based on experience. And I had to be very abrasive to myself for many, many months and years to get to where I am today, because I
Yeah.
was just so complicit with my mindset that there was no other way around. But yeah, it's a good start. And
I like it.
thank you very much for reading it and discussing it today, because that really was the most important thing for me when I started this full confidence project. It wasn't so
Yeah.
much the coaching that came later, basically.
Beautiful. So, what advice would you give to someone just starting their journey towards holistic health?
Just don't put off. Don't put off. It's not as hard as you think. Once you get into it, you will just wonder why you didn't start earlier. That's really what it is. So take the leap, take your responsibility, be prepared to fail, depending what your goals are. Put some outrageous goals for yourself, because no goal is really outrageous. It's just seemingly outrageous to our limited mindsets. But
Mm-hmm.
trust the process. Put a very cool goal and strive towards it, because you'll be surprised how much your brain can open up and how resourceful you can be in accomplishing this goal and all the smaller goals in between your current state of being to the final goal. And then you create more goals. But it's truly, truly doable. And trust yourself. You have the ability. You have the ability. Just start today. Start yesterday. Start now. That's the main thing. That's the main thing, because there will be a lot of roadblocks, and the less you give up and the more willing you are to do everything in spite of the roadblocks, the better off you will be. And it just helps with every essential area of your life. And I can tell you this 1,000 times because I've lived it. I never thought I could do it. And if I can, you can. That's the main. I say this in the book all the time. If I could do this, you can do this. Just, I never thought I could do it.
That's beautiful. Now, how do you see the future of healthcare evolving, particularly in integrating holistic approaches? Do you see any changes in that?
I do, to an extent. Lots of companies are saying that, well, we have holistic approach when it really isn't that holistic. I don't know how the system is going to change unless we change from within and we really start with ourselves, each and every one of us, to be the best example for health holistically in all ways for our patients and clients, so that they can see that we really care about their health overall by showing that we have done excellent job with ourselves, and then we just genuinely spread sincere, valid knowledge to them. I think that's what's got to change. But if it continues the way it is right now with all the profits margins, it's not going to go well. That's why I think the system is changeable from within, but it's responsibility every single healthcare professional.
It's an individual thing too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's crazy because one of the research that I recently did and I came across, their strain, and I don't know how much you know of this or if any, they're starting to even spray our clothes, the product that you use for like scrubbing your skin with chemicals that cause cancer. And that's crazy. That is pretty nuts. What are your thoughts on that?
So just don't buy everything that's advertised on the TV. If it's advertised on the TV, don't touch it, don't eat it, don't buy it, don't give it to your loved ones. Give it to those you hate. That's how you look at it. But no, really, if it's advertised on TV, don't touch it. Don't touch it.
Yeah, I actually came across a gentleman. I can't remember his name right now, but he actually traveled around the world looking for different fabrics and different things that were made not from slavery or not from any of that stuff, because all that carries those energy signatures with them too. So he actually came up with a beautiful clothing line that is healthy, that is not marketable. Yeah, it's organic, and I had no idea. You see, you don't think about those kind of things, how they could even affect your health. You don't, and they do. And I'm like, I was talking to my husband, I say, we need to put some money on the side within the next 6 months, and we need to start changing even our clothes because the clothes where it comes from, we carry those energies with us too. It's like the animals. If the animals are being slaughtered, you're carrying those energies into your body because of all the stuff that they endured. So it's on another energy, spiritual level. But I think that everything is intertwined. Again, everything is spiritual.
True. It's a wonderful endeavor.
Yeah.
Wonderful endeavor.
So what are some simple daily habits you recommend for maintaining holistic health?
Well, for one thing, you need to oxygenate your body very adequately every day to alkalinize your blood. So deep breathing techniques, cardio, high resistance cardio, obviously fresh fruits and vegetables that have a lot of nutrients in them, including oxygen, cold showers. That's also one very challenging for me. Meditation.
That's challenging. I love hot water.
Cold showers. No, it's wonderful for the lymphatic and the immune systems. Wonderful, wonderful health practice. 2 to 5 minutes a day, first thing in the morning, preferably. And then, of course, the meditation. I do dynamic meditation. Very much, I put all of my goals into my meditation, and I truly integrate them with my visualization and imagination. That's what works for me. And then you have the fitness, the nutrition, the detox, the mindset at work, with your communications, everything. These are some practices that I really do every day, and I do not deviate because that's the structure.
You don't even take a day off. Not even one day off do you take, no?
Not from these practices because they truly, if I can do it at a certain time, I do it at a different time. But it stays now. If I have done it for 3 years and I skip one day because I'm traveling somewhere, that's okay. But I don't do extensive travels that will prevent me from doing my detox and or my fitness. If I see my family, my mother, once every 2 years for 10 days, that's okay. But the remaining 2 years minus these 10 days, I do not. compromise at
You
all.
don't compromise.
And yeah, because if I'm here, there is no excuse to compromise. And I'm mostly here in my home environment. So any excuse to compromise is just a BS. So I don't do that. So then I
You know,
was,
it's funny you say about traveling, because that's been, again, our challenge, one of our biggest challenges is, we integrate something, right? We're doing it, we're consistent, and then boom, here comes a travel for 4 days, 3 days, a week. And now we're getting off our regimen, our routine, our stuff,
well,
and
but
then to get
depending
back
how
into
often
it.
that is, though, depending how often that is, because if you have to travel often, then you have to integrate a healthy regimen in your travels.
How do you do
Somebody
that?
like me that
That's been our
travels every two
challenge.
years, right? So if I travel every 2 years for 10 days, that's
Hmm.
not a big deal. But if I'm traveling once a month or
Yeah.
every 2, 3 weeks, then I'm going to find a way to integrate my healthy habits into my
Mm.
travel. There's no way around that, because then the travel becomes a part of my life. So I'm not going to compromise my
So
health because of
basically,
the
the
travel.
same thing that you're doing, you got to plan it into your travels. Because, like, for us, we have, between my husband and I, 7 kids and 10 grandkids. So they
Okay.
live in different places. We got some in Ohio, some in Texas,
Uh-huh.
some in Florida. They're all over the place. So every time we go visit, everybody's cooking other things, except for one of his daughters. She's completely vegan, her and her
Uh-huh.
husband. So that's perfect, because when we're with them, it's like nothing really changes in that aspect. But when we're with anyone else, it's just so hard, because then they cook, and then you don't want to be disrespectful and say, I'm not going to eat that, because I'm vegan now. So how
Oh,
do
yes,
you
you do. You absolutely say that. You set the
really?
limits. You tell them this is how it is, and you guys eat whatever you want. I love your food. However, I don't eat that anymore because of such and
Okay.
such reasons. And if they get offended, that's not my problem. I've learned to distance myself because certain relatives can be very strong about their hospitality, and you're refusing this and that, and
Yeah.
they can choose to get offended or not to get offended, and
Mm.
that's just and then of course this argument. Well, a little bit of meat here and there, right? I won't kill you, and I tell them if it won't kill you if I don't eat the meat. So you eat your meat, I don't. I eat the plants. And when we go to travels, I mean, we do the grocery shopping when we're at relatives' places. And
Okay.
if you have to be in a hotel, you can always have a portable burner and cook your own food. It takes an hour. You can cook
Yeah.
a dish for 3 days for yourself in a hotel and keep it in a little fridge. I mean, it's completely doable. I know lots of people who do that. So again,
Okay.
but with relatives, it can be the
It
hardest
is.
because
It
of
is.
their lack of
Yeah.
understanding. I know,
Yeah.
but
It is.
I've learned to set limits a long time ago. Like that's never a question. I'll never dread going somewhere just because they're gonna be upset. I say you can be upset all you want. I don't have to come here.
Hmm. See,
Oh,
my husband has more of that attitude, like, I don't give a shit, like, what anybody else thinks. And I'm starting to kind of like get into that mindset of, you know what? It's my life, it's my health.
yeah.
I'm
I
not
mean, you
trying to be
can be kind, you
disrespectful.
can be respectful, but you can
Yeah.
be firm. You
Yeah.
can be firm and say,
Okay.
this is your way, this is my way. I'm not doing that because that's just it. And we travel here often enough to come to see you guys. We don't want to compromise that many. So we'd rather not compromise at all. And we can buy
Hmm.
the groceries, we can cook the groceries, you cook your stuff, we cook our stuff, and we can still be friends and talk and have wonderful fun, but we don't have to eat the same
That's
stuff.
beautiful.
That's it.
That is
I
true.
mean,
Yeah.
it
That is
is.
true.
It
That is
takes some
true.
time to
Yeah.
educate the
To
family,
adjust.
but uh
Yeah. Adjust and educate them, and just, yeah, it's doable. You're right on that. It's very doable. It's just, it starts with you having that commitment,
and if
that
they have ever
conviction.
continued giving me hard time, I just stopped going there. I have no problem with that. I just
That
stopped
is
going there. I
true.
mean, it's just really, we're going to be fighting all the time. We don't have to see each other.
Oh no, I can't do the fighting anymore. I can't do that anymore.
Or I say I go to friends if I visit somewhere place that I have lived for 10 years and I haven't seen the friends, and I tell them before we even see each other, I say, so you're not going to cook anything. I'm coming for 2 hours to see you 3 hours. All I want is an herbal tea or plain water. That's all I want. All I want, herbal tea. And they're like, oh, that's really easy. So that's fine. Can I buy you some fruits? You can buy me fruits, but I don't want to force you to buy organic for me. Herbal tea, non-caffeine free tea, not decaffeinated, but caffeine free, chemical free. That's all I want because I'm coming to see you. I'm not going to eat a large meal with company. I'm coming to see you. So you are
Mm,
important. The tea is just a nice addition. And then they buy that mindset and like, oh,
wow.
that sounds very good. And it relieves them from preparing anyways. Because they're busy
Yeah.
enough. I go there, visit for 2 hours. Now they feel obligated to prepare all that crap that I don't want to eat. So I tell them, all I want to get is this. And if it's working, try that
Hmm.
sometimes.
I'm going to try it. No, I'm going to definitely try it. Yeah, sounds good. So, what are your current projects or future plans in the field of health and wellness? Anything new that's coming up?
Well, no, I just want to stay consistent with what I do. And if I learn something new and I want to integrate, of course, I'm going to do that. But just continue learning and never keeping my eye off the system and how it's evolving, because things change every day very rapidly. And quality of food, quality of nutrition, quality of health changes under our noses, sometimes with hidden policies and whatnot. So it's just
Yeah.
continued learning. Lifelong learning is really was always new for me, because it's never pleasant to have to change and learn new things and absorb more and more information just when you think that you got it all right, and all of a sudden it turns out, oh no, there is a problem with this. And it's a continuous self-education and integrating other people's valuable experience into your lifestyle. But new projects, I mean, the coaching business, once it takes off even better, I can be useful to more people. But staying consistent never gets old. So, because there are always temptations and challenges to it.
Yeah.
And if I can stay consistent, I'm doing well. And that's all that matters right now.
That's beautiful. Now we're at the end of our podcast, and I always like to ask three closing questions to our guests, and they're all tailored to the guest and specifically. First question is, if you could offer just one piece of advice to our listeners to start improving their self-confidence today, what would that be?
Well, I would just say sit and evaluate your life, see what you're missing, what you perceive you're missing, why you're missing it, how much control you have over the things you're missing, and how much is outside factors. And you will find out that in a very large percent, you're the one who can change a lot about your confidence once you truly analyze what's going on and what your goals are. And it is hard to set goals when you don't have confidence. That is the toughest thing, but you can start small and then grow big with your goals. But you just have to sit and do it. And
Yeah.
make sure you set goals that you really want, not goals that will please those around you or goals that won't upset those around you. That's a very important, subtle difference that you need to make. And the sooner you get to set your own goals for your true, genuine inclinations about the future of your life, you will be able to build the confidence. And again, if it takes longer time, just don't give up. Keep searching yourself, because it took me a long time to realize what my true goals were. It took more than 20 years. It doesn't have to take that long for you. If you realize that it is supposed to be hard and you embrace that risk, take it, and then start on that journey, you will get there much sooner than I did.
Beautiful. And as you continue your journey, what are you most excited to explore or discover next in the realm of spiritual growth?
That's a good question. Perhaps more in mind control and developing intuition, and deepening on that, because I've made a great progress with that in the last 6 or 7 months, but I'm going to dig some more into it with certain mind control systems that I'm exploring right now, and it's been really eye-opening, and it's just a whole other level of organization and responsibility, and that's what's I found fascinating. So I think that's the most exciting right now.
That's beautiful. And what legacy do you hope to leave behind through your work in holistic health and personal empowerment?
Oh, just don't compromise your principles. It really, through example and integration of all the principles, just not compromising for the sake of some short-term gain. It's really what I want to ingrain with everybody I teach and come, even as a nurse, coach or nurse, depending whether a patient or a client. But the legacy is really what people remember about you. And again, staying consistent with your principles and encouraging people at all times and nourishing them that they absolutely are able to do this for themselves. I think that's the biggest legacy I would like to leave, because at some point I was crushed and I had lots of problems, and there were these people who, one way or another, managed to uplift me, lift me from the ground and on my feet. And they all did it in different ways. So I try to do it in multiple ways, to show even the same person how many ways there are to elevate their life, because it gives them that many more strengths of hope and determination. And I think that's very important. So that's the legacy I would like to leave with people, that there are multiple ways to elevate your life, but you have to work on all these ways. And once you are in control of these aspects and you see the results, your confidence naturally will grow and there will be no longer a problem with that.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you for that. And where can people find you, Alexandra?
My website, holisticselfconfidence.com. The paperback of the book is available in the US only, but the ebook is worldwide through the website, Amazon, Smashwords, Apple Books, Barnes and Noble. It's the same price all over these places. And there is a coaching page on the website. There is an email address. There is a contact form. There is whatever they want to do, they can find me. Or on my social platforms, and the links to the social platforms are on the website. So holisticselfconfidence.com is a good place to start. And then we'll see.
Well, thank you for being on the show. I'm honored to have been able to do this podcast with you and bring information for the audience. And also, the book is helping me so much already. And, this is just going to be like my little guide to everything that I need to do and be committed to. And I'm so grateful to have met you and had a conversation, and would love to stay in touch and see what comes from this friendship and
Jackie,
connection.
so much. Likewise, very honored to be on your show. You're an amazing host, very profound and
Thank
to
you.
the point. I love that conversation. And yes, we'll keep in touch. Absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely.
awesome. Awesome. Love it. So thank you for tuning in to the Dear Souls podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a review and sharing it with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, happy listening.